Chapter 616. Two black-clothed figures traversed through the forest. The entire forest was filled with a thin and eerie ghostly aura, causing one to shudder. Since they had just passed by a city, Long Yu and Shu-chan both came out of their divine concealment state. They walked through the forest at night, thinking that in this kind of remote place, they shouldn't meet anyone else. Ice Heaven Valley is not far ahead. Shu-chan lowered her voice and said to Long Yu, "Ice Heaven Valley." Long Yu narrowed his eyes. Of course he knew what kind of place Ice Heaven Valley was. It was Bai Qing and Bai Teng's sect. Bai Qing was the fourth disciple of Azura King. She had quite a bit of enmity with Long Yu before. After Tianqing dynasty occupied Azura Prefecture, Bai Qing seemed to have submitted to Tianqing dynasty and had been working for them. As for Bai Teng, Long Yu did not know what happened after Tianqing dynasty occupied Azura Prefecture. However, he knew that during the Azura selection, this brat had thoughts about Lu Yuan. After being rejected by Lu Yuan, he had developed great enmity towards Long Yu. In any case, Long Yu did not have a good impression of this Ice Heaven Valley. Are there any Emperor Path Secret Realm experts in this Ice Heaven Valley? Long Yu asked. No, Ice Heaven Valley's Valley Master is only a 7-Daos divinity realm martial cultivator. Shu-chan shook her head. Then it's easy. Long Yu narrowed his eyes and suggested, if we want to gain a firm foothold in the North Snow Royal Capital, we need sufficient cultivation resources. And if we want to obtain cultivation resources, the fastest way is to snatch them. I think this Ice Heaven Valley is a good target. Rub. Shu-chan was startled by Long Yu's words. You're quite bold to actually have ideas about Ice Heaven Valley. However, with our strength and agility, it's not impossible to take a look at Ice Heaven Valley. However, if no one discovers us, the news of our whereabouts will be leaked. It's fine. We're already very close to the Azura Valley. If we advance at full speed, we'll be able to reach it in less than half a day. Long Yu pondered for a moment, then said, even if our whereabouts are leaked, we should be able to rush to the Azura Valley in time when the others surround us. As long as we can reach the Azura Holy Tree, we won't have to be afraid even if the masters from the Imperial Road Secret Realm come. That's true. Shu-chan nodded in agreement. She had never been a cautious person. The plan that Long Yu had proposed was quite to her liking. In the past, she didn't like Bai Qing for a long time because Bai Qing would often cause trouble for her. Unfortunately, she couldn't do anything to Bai Qing because Bai Qing was her father's disciple. On the surface, she still had to put on an act. However, now that Bai Qing had sided with the Tianqing dynasty, Shu-chan didn't feel the slightest pressure in dealing with her. Of course, it was very likely that Bai Qing would be in Ice Heaven Valley now. However, Bai Qing had grown up in Ice Heaven Valley. Furthermore, there was also the young master of Ice Heaven Valley, Bai Teng. Every time they met, Bai Teng would stare at Shu-chan with a greedy gaze. This gave her a very bad impression of Ice Heaven Valley. There was no doubt that Ice Heaven Valley had sided with the Tianqing dynasty. Most of the cultivation resources had definitely been taken away by the Tianqing dynasty. Some of them even amounted to tens of millions of Tianqing coins. However, Long Yu and Shu-chan didn't need Tianqing coins, because in North Snow Imperial City, Tianqing coins had no use. All they needed were combat weapons and elixirs, or some martial arts manuals. Of course, martial arts manuals weren't that easy to obtain, but as long as they could get some combat weapons and elixirs, this trip would be worth it. After all, developing one's power in North Snow Imperial City required too much. Two black shadows, taking advantage of the night, quickly left the gloomy forest and came to a field of ice and snow. It was said that there was an extremely strong ice divine character power deep underground in this field, which was why it had formed a field of ice and snow nearby. However, no one had the opportunity to go to the depths of Ice Heaven Valley to verify this. At this time, Ice Heaven Valley was silent. Only a dozen or so disciples guarding the mountain gate were chatting and dozing off. Divine concealment. When they approached the Ice Heaven Valley's mountain gate, Long Yu and Shu-chan both concealed their figures and approached the dozen or so disciples who were guarding the mountain and overheard the topic they were chatting about. A few days ago, senior sister Bai Qing returned. It is said that she made a great contribution to the Tianqing dynasty in Azura Valley and received a great desolate level combat weapon as a reward. Our luck is really good. Now that the Tianqing dynasty is directly ruling our Azura County, there are many resistance everywhere. There are many opportunities to make contributions. Unfortunately, our strength is too low, so we can only guard the mountain here. Sai, let me tell you guys something. Don't tell anyone. Our young master has already discussed with senior sister Bai Qing. In a few days, they will set off to Azura Valley together to continue working for the Tianqing dynasty. Senior sister Bai Qing also needs some manpower. I have a good relationship with young master's follower, Feng Zhitian. When the time comes, I will ask him to bring me along. If you guys want to go out and broaden your horizons. Of course we have to go out and broaden our horizons. If we follow young master and senior sister Bai Qing, even if we can't eat the meat, we can still drink the soup. Even if we can get a heaven-level combat weapon, it is already very good. Brother, we have such a good relationship. You definitely won't leave me behind, right? In a few days, you must introduce me to young master. Listening to these people's conversation, Shu Chan was so angry that she was about to burst into flames. Bai Qing made a great contribution and received a great desolate level combat weapon. What kind of contribution did she have to make to get a great desolate level combat weapon? She must have helped the Tianqing dynasty suppress some rebel forces, and the rebel forces must be loyal to the Shura king. In other words, they must be on the same side as Shu Chan. Not only that, Bai Qing actually returned to Ice Heaven Valley to recruit people to continue fighting against the Tianqing dynasty. How could Shu Chan tolerate this? This Bai Qing, my father treated her well in the past. The reason she has her current cultivation is all thanks to my father. I never thought that she would betray my father and truly rely on the Tianqing dynasty to work for the Tianqing emperor. Shu Chan's eyes flashed with anger. The Tianqing emperor is her enemy who killed her master. No need to say more. Just kill him. Long Yu pressed down on Shu Chan's shoulder and said softly as he hit his figure and jumped out. The 10 Ice Heaven Valley disciples who were guarding the mountain were only in the celestial realm, and only one was in the divine power realm. For Long Yu, it was very easy to deal with them. Before Shu Chan could make a move, the pitch-black power of the 9 nether divine characters drifted out and instantly enveloped the 10 disciples. The next moment, the 10 people fell to the ground. In just an instant, Long Yu did not even use any martial skills. He only released the power of the 9 nether divine characters and killed all 10 disciples. To be able to do this, besides Long Yu's own strength, the eerie ghost chi that drifted in the snowy wilderness was also a big help. When the 9 nether divine characters first spread out, it did not attract anyone's attention. When the power of the 9 nether divine characters enveloped all 10 people, it was too late for them to run. Let's go. Long Yu beckoned to Shu Chan and quickly flashed into Ice Heaven Valley. The two of them passed through a long ice staircase and arrived at a magnificent hall built from ice. Under the moonlight, the entire hall seemed extremely deserted. In the middle of the night, there was basically no one who would come to this place to discuss matters of the sect. Combat Weapon Pavilion, Divine Pill Pavilion, and Martial Skill Pavilion are in 3 different places. Shu Chan said to Long Yu and then pointed out 3 directions. She had some impression of the terrain of Ice Heaven Valley. After all, she had come here with Azura King several times before. Then I'll go to Combat Weapon Pavilion and Divine Pill Pavilion. You go to Martial Skill Pavilion. We'll split up, Long Yu said solemnly. There are no Imperial Road mystical realm experts here, so I won't be in any danger. But if you encounter any danger, try to delay them. I'll come to help you. Okay. Shu Chan nodded. She had a strange feeling in her heart. It was obvious that her battle strength was stronger than Long Yu. However, when she heard Long Yu's commands, she didn't feel the slightest bit of displeasure. Furthermore, she knew that Long Yu possessed the ability to conceal himself. His actions were indeed safer than hers. The guards of Combat Weapon Pavilion and Divine Pill Pavilion were weaker, so Long Yu's arrangement wasn't a problem. It had to be known that the martial skill pavilion was the most important place in any sect. There would definitely be one of the strongest elders guarding it. As for combat weapon pavilion and divine pill pavilion, although they were important, the guards weren't as strong as the martial skill pavilion. The two split up. Long Yu concealed himself and disappeared into the ice mountain valley. As for Shu Chan, she was like a black shadow, rushing towards Ice Heaven Valley's martial skill pavilion. This is the combat weapon pavilion. Long Yu quickly passed by a large number of buildings made of ice and snow. He sensed that many martial cultivators were resting or cultivating in these buildings, but no one could sense his presence. He quietly arrived at Ice Heaven Valley's combat weapon pavilion. This was a 3-story building. If one wanted to reach the second and third floors, they could only enter through the door at the bottom of the tower. There were no entrances to the upper 2 floors. Long Yu frowned slightly. This combat weapon pavilion's main door was tightly shut. It wouldn't be easy to sneak in without making a sound. But very quickly, there was a burst of fire and noise in the distance. It was obvious that Shu Chan had begun to rob Ice Heaven Valley's martial skill pavilion. This made Long Yu feel rather helpless. This little princess's hatred for Ice Heaven Valley was deeper than he had imagined. She had actually agreed to rob Ice Heaven Valley so readily. Although robbing was not the right thing to do, the disciples of Ice Heaven Valley had so decisively surrendered to the Tianqin dynasty. To Long Yu and Shu Chan, they were enemies. Against enemies, no matter what method was used, it was not excessive. As the commotion caused by Shu Chan's forceful entry into the martial skill pavilion grew, the main door of the combat weapon pavilion opened. An Ice Heaven Valley elder with 5 divine power realms squinted his eyes and looked in the direction of the martial skill pavilion. There were also several Ice Heaven Valley emperors following behind the elder, their expressions extremely respectful. This was the elder guarding the combat weapon pavilion. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. Taking advantage of the opening of the combat weapon pavilion, he quietly entered in a flash without attracting anyone's attention. Chapter 617. The speed at which Long Yu looted the combat weapons was top-notch. The elders and disciples of the Ice Heaven Valley who were responsible for guarding the combat weapon pavilion went to the entrance of the combat weapon pavilion and glanced in the direction of the martial skill pavilion. None of them had expected that someone would sneak into the combat weapon pavilion and loot their combat weapons. Heaven-grade combat weapon, Earth-grade combat weapon, Profound-grade combat weapon. Long Yu glanced around and saw that the combat weapon pavilion was filled with combat weapons of different grades and grades. He couldn't be bothered to think too much about it. He walked up and stuffed all the combat weapons into the Void Spirit Dragon Blade storage space. Of course, the Heaven-grade combat weapons were the first to be looted. Long Yu ran all the way to the 3rd floor of the combat weapon pavilion and looted all the Heaven-grade combat weapons. On the 3rd floor of the combat weapon pavilion, there was a transcendent realm martial cultivator who was dozing off. Wielding the Nether Dragon Blade, Long Yu silently pierced through the transcendent realm martial cultivator's heart meridian without making a sound. The divine concealment technique was almost invincible for those below the Emperor Path Secret Realm. 45 Heaven-grade combat weapons. Long Yu did a quick count. Among the Heaven-grade combat weapons, most of them were low-grade Heaven-grade, a few were mid-grade Heaven-grade, and only 3 were high-grade Heaven-grade combat weapons. However, this was already a good harvest. Then, Long Yu went to the 2nd floor of the combat weapon pavilion and started looting the Earth-grade combat weapons. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Long Yu had looted the entire 2nd and 3rd floor of the combat weapon pavilion. He had already obtained more than 200 Heaven-grade and Earth-grade combat weapons. As for the Profound-grade combat weapons, Long Yu didn't really care about them. He randomly picked a few high-grade combat weapons and was ready to leave. As for Supreme-grade and Supreme-grade combat weapons, there wasn't a single one in the combat weapon pavilion of Ice Heaven Valley. They must have been stored somewhere else. Due to the lack of time, Long Yu didn't have the time to catch an elder of Ice Heaven Valley and interrogate him. He rushed towards the Divine Pill Pavilion as fast as he could. As for medicinal pills, Long Yu was looking forward to them more because taking medicinal pills was a great way to improve one's martial Tao realm. Of course, for Long Yu, he had already consumed most of the alchemical pills that could be produced in the Azura region. If he consumed them again, their effects would be halved. He had plundered these alchemical pills mainly for the sake of the people of the North Snow Imperial City. Elixirs were the foundation of a sect or faction's development. Fortunately, there were many alchemists in the Heavenly Mandate Manor. As long as there were enough alchemy materials, they could refine enough pills. Among the hundreds of female disciples from the Glazed Moon Palace, there were a few alchemists and a few weapon refiners. Liao Lele and the others from the Jintian clan could learn alchemy from the Glazed Moon Palace's high-end alchemists and raise their alchemy skills and standards. There's actually a great desolate grade elixir. Just like in the Battle Armament Pavilion, Long Yu sneaked into the Divine Elixir Pavilion as fast as he could while the Guardian Elder was dealing with Shu Chan. The Divine Elixir Pavilion had a total of 4 floors, and there were 3 great desolate grade elixirs on the 4th floor, each stored in a delicate porcelain bottle. Long Yu checked them casually. These 3 great desolate grade elixirs were used to store the spiritual qi of the world. In other words, they were used to improve one's martial Tao realm. They were all different, and Long Yu had never seen them before. Long Yu thought for a while and realized that these were probably the rewards that Bai Qing had received from the Tianqing dynasty. There was no way to refine great desolate grade elixirs in the Azura region. If one wanted great desolate grade elixirs, they had to come from the Tianqing dynasty. With this thought, Long Yu had even more of a need to take them away. Absorb. Without thinking, Long Yu used the Nether Dragon Blade to absorb and store all the spiritual qi of the world in the 3 great desolate great elixirs. He planned to absorb the spiritual qi of the world when he had time and try to break through to the 2nd divine realm. Then, he went down to the 3rd floor. This time, it was more troublesome. An Ice Heaven Valley Elder with 4 divine realms was patrolling carefully on the 3rd floor of the Divine Elixir Pavilion. Although the Elder couldn't find Long Yu in the state of spirit concealment, if Long Yu tried to plunder the elixirs, he would definitely be found out. Strike first and gain the upper hand. I can't miss the Heaven Great Elixirs. Long Yu thought for a while and made up his mind. Even if he had to expose himself, there was no other way. He had to take the Heaven Great Elixirs on this floor. They were a great guarantee for the development of the Heavenly Mandate Manor. The next moment, the power of the divine characters of the Netherworld suddenly swept out and condensed into a divine light of the Netherworld, instantly enveloping the Ice Heaven Valley Elder with 4 divine realms. The middle-aged elder was suddenly eroded by the divine characters of the Netherworld. As soon as he opened his mouth, endless divine characters of the Netherworld entered his mouth, making it impossible for him to shout. He could only activate the power of the ice divine characters that he had comprehended and burst out with all his strength, destroying the medicine cabinet on the side. The noise of the medicine cabinet breaking spread to the next floor. Obviously, other people from Ice Heaven Valley would come up to investigate soon. But before that, Long Yu had already killed the 4 Ice Heaven Valley elders with a Nether Dragon Blade and began to plunder the Heaven Grade elixirs on this floor. From lower Heaven Grade to medium grade to precious upper grade elixirs, Long Yu didn't let go of any of them. He plundered all of them into the storage space of the Nether Dragon Blade. By the time the others came up to this floor, Long Yu had already plundered more than half of the elixirs, leaving only some restorative Heaven Grade elixirs for them. And Long Yu himself disappeared again, causing the eyes of the Ice Heaven Valley disciples who came to support to burst out. The Guardian Elder was killed. Heaven Grade elixirs were stolen. Why did Ice Heaven Valley suffer such a disaster? When the Ice Heaven Valley disciples in the Divine Pill Pavilion were at a loss, Long Yu had already left the Divine Pill Pavilion. He didn't bother to plunder the remaining Earth Grade elixirs. Seeing that it was almost time, he had to hurry to the Martial Skill Pavilion to help Shu Chan. Long Yu concealed his figure and soon arrived near the Martial Skill Pavilion. He found that there was a sea of people here. There were already thousands of Ice Heaven Valley disciples gathered around the Martial Skill Pavilion. At the entrance of the martial skill pavilion, there was a beautiful figure in a black short skirt. It was a young princess, Shu-chan, the Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley, a white-bearded old man who had reached the 7 Daos divinity realm, led a group of people to surround the entire martial skill pavilion. He looked at Shu-chan and snorted coldly. I didn't expect the dignified Azura princess to come to my Ice Heaven Valley and do such a thing. One eye-opener. Ice Heaven Valley's Valley Master snorted. Valley Master, you flatter me. Now that Shu-chan is no longer a princess, she doesn't need your permission to do anything, right? Shu-chan narrowed her eyes. Her words almost caused the Ice Heaven Valley's Valley Master to vomit blood. Indeed, did she need the Valley Master's permission to rob Ice Heaven Valley? If he agreed, it wouldn't be called a robbery. Hand over the things in a martial skill pavilion, and we can let you go today. Otherwise, even if you are a princess, you will die here today. The Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley said indifferently, showing no mercy. Even if I hand over the things, will you let me go? Shu-chan chuckled. I think that Bai Tong, Bai Qing, and the others all want to capture me and hand me over to the Tianqin Emperor. Old man, your juniors don't agree with what you said. Indeed, if they captured Shu-chan and handed her over to the Tianqin Emperor, they would definitely be able to exchange her for a lot of rewards. Bai Tong, Bai Qing, and the others of the younger generation would definitely not let go of such an opportunity. As for what the Valley Master said, if they handed over the things, they would let Shu-chan go. It was still debatable. Shu-chan would not agree so foolishly. When Long Yu quietly arrived, he saw such a scene. The Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley had surrounded Shu-chan, including Bai Qing's subordinates, and the young Master of Ice Heaven Valley, Bai Tong, and the others. All of them were staring at Shu-chan. However, they only surrounded her and did not make a move. They had probably already sent someone out to report the news. The people of Ice Heaven Valley were not willing to make a move themselves, naturally because they were afraid that they would be at a disadvantage against Shu-chan. After all, Shu-chan's strength had always been famous throughout the Azura province. Even the Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley, who had 7 divine power realms, might not dare to make a move against Shu-chan. When the people of the Tianqin Emperor dynasty arrived, Shu-chan would not be able to escape. Unfortunately, Long Yu and Shu-chan would not give the other party this chance. Long Yu swept his gaze across the scene and locked his gaze on the young master of Ice Heaven Valley, Bai Tong. The reason was not because of Bai Tong, but because of the protruding mouth and ape-like chin of a fellow beside Bai Tong. His name should be Feng Zetian. This fellow had always been sharp-tongued. Before the Azura selection, he had once mocked Long Yu in public, but Long Yu did not care at all. Even now, Feng Zetian was still displaying his specialty, chattering incessantly. Princess Shu-chan, what a pity. Our young master likes you so much. If you had agreed to our young master's request back then, you would not have fallen to such a state. Unfortunately, even if you wanted to be our young master's woman, our young master would not agree. After all, you are the enemy of Emperor Tianqin's son. Beside Feng Zetian, the handsome young master Bai Tong, who was dressed in white, looked at Shu-chan with pity in his eyes. If such a beauty had not offended Emperor Tianqin, he would have been very happy to take her as his woman. After all, she was the former princess of Azura Prefecture. Bai Tong for Divine Power Realm. Innate divine powers include Ice Prison, Thin Burial, and Heavenly Ice Spear. He does not have any defensive weapons on him. He can be killed. Long Yu originally wanted to leave with Shu-chan, but when he heard Feng Zetian's sheep mouth, he could not help but have a murderous intent emerge in his heart. Bai Tong, who had 4 divine power realm, had not yet walked together with his father, the Valley Master. For Long Yu, killing him would only be a matter of an instant. Because Long Yu and Bai Tong had fought in the Dream Realm during the Azura selection, he had a good understanding of this person's methods. If he attacked now, he would have a high chance of winning. Who asked you to have such a cheap mouth? If I don't kill you, I would be letting myself down. Killing intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes as he quietly approached the young master of Ice Heaven Valley, Bai Tong, and his follower Feng Zetian. Chapter 618. Quietly, Long Yu had arrived not far behind Bai Tong, the young master of Ice Heaven Valley, and was about to launch an assassination. Even at this time, Bai Tong was still unaware of the danger he was facing. He only looked at Shu Chan with pity in his eyes. At this time, Shu Chan's expression did not change at all. Although she was very clear that Long Yu had arrived and was about to take action, she did not show it on the surface at all, thus not giving the others any chance to react. Now, killing intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes, and he immediately launched an assassination with the netherworld dragon blade in his hand. Almost at the same time, 4 ancient shadows were formed, and he performed the blood sacrifice shadow kill. 5 small red and black figures suddenly rolled out and stabbed at Bai Tong. The assassination attack was so close that Bai Tong could not react at all. Puff! The small red and black figures formed by the blood sacrifice shadow kill instantly penetrated Bai Tong's body, destroying his meridians and dantian. Bai Tong was completely unprepared and was killed in one move. Go! Without any hesitation, Long Yu appeared next to Shu Chan in a flash, and, at the same time, he performed the spirit concealment technique. The 2 figures directly disappeared from the scene, causing the chaotic scene because of Bai Tong's death to become even more chaotic. The Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley rushed to the side of his son, Bai Tong, but he could only hold his son's body. In just a short time, his body had already become ice-cold, eroded by the power of the 9 Serenity's divine characters. Chase, everyone, chase after them. We must not let the 2 murderers go. The Ice Heaven Valley's Valley Master was almost hysterical. His eyes were filled with endless darkness as he swept his gaze across the surroundings. However, other than the thousands of Ice Heaven Valley's disciples who were in chaos, there was no trace of Long Yu and Shu Chan, those who have comprehended the radiant divine characters. Show me your skills. Whoever can find the traces of those 2 guys, I will reward you with a great desolate level combat weapon. Ice Heaven Valley's Valley Master almost went crazy. He had only comprehended the ice attribute divine rune, so it was almost impossible for him to find Shu Chan and Long Yu, who were in a state of concealment. In order to deal with invisibility, in addition to enhancing one's own perception, the only way was to comprehend light attribute divine text. Unfortunately, in Ice Heaven Valley, light attribute divine text was not mainstream. As a result, among the thousands of spectating disciples, only a few people could use this technique. These people were all low-rank martial cultivators of the divine ability secret realm. Even though they had released radiant divine characters, the range of their search was extremely limited. They quickly searched the surrounding area, but they couldn't find any traces of Long Yu and Shu Chan. This made Ice Heaven Valley's Valley Master fly into a rage. She hurriedly sent people to split up into teams of several dozen people. Each team brought a disciple with a light attribute divine rune to search for traces. At this time, it was certainly impossible for Long Yu and Shu Chan to stay in Ice Heaven Valley. After the 2 of them concealed themselves, they immediately used various movement martial skills to escape from the crowd and continued to head north. Although they quickly left the range of Ice Heaven Valley, Long Yu still had a feeling of uneasiness in his heart. It seems that we've been targeted, Long Yu said in a deep voice. We've already flown far away. Logically speaking, no one should be able to find us. Shu Chan's eyes flickered. She couldn't figure out what was going on with Long Yu's ominous premonition, but suddenly her eyes lit up. That's right, I suddenly remembered that Bai Qing has a guy who has comprehended light attribute divine rune. This person can't directly release light attribute divine rune to search for invisible opponents, but he can set a light attribute divine rune imprint on others in advance, and then track this imprint. Let me see. Long Yu held Shu Chan's small hand in his. He was sure that he had not been marked with any light attribute divine rune, otherwise the 9 nether divine rune would have eliminated it long ago. Long Yu held Shu Chan's small hand, immediately causing Shu Chan's face to blush, but immediately Long Yu said, "Sure enough, 9 nether divine rune. Eliminate." A burst of 9 nether divine runes power passed from Long Yu's hand to Shu Chan's body, eliminating an extremely hidden light attribute, divine rune imprint on her body. Fortunately, Shu Chan had thought that Bai Qing had a subordinate who had such a method. Otherwise, she would have been besieged by others. Continue to hide. Long Yu nodded to Shu Chan, then continued to use the divine concealment method with her. During this period of time, Long Yu constantly took the heaven-grade medicinal pills of the High Clouds Empire to restore the power of the divine rune and relieve the fatigue in his meridians. The total value of the medicinal pills consumed was extremely high, but compared to the value of the things they obtained in the Ice Heaven Valley, it was still very worth it. The two of them hid in the barren, snowy forest, and from afar, they saw a small group of people flying in the sky, and the person in the lead was the enchanting Bai Qing in a pink dress. Bai Qing's eyes were blurred, and when she arrived in the barren, snowy forest, she stopped, looked around, and asked, "You mean they removed your light attribute divine rune here?" Behind her was a young martial cultivator, dressed in white, with the aura of light attribute divine rune intertwining around his body. He seemed to be in his early 20s, but he already had a cultivation of 3 divine runes, and his talent was extremely strong. That's right, my light attribute divine rune shouldn't have been removed by others. It seems that the princess still has some tricks up her sleeve. The person narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, "In my opinion, this is not necessarily Shu Chan's doing." Bai Qing shook her head, but did not say much. She raised her hand and ordered, "Everyone spread out and search. If you find any clues, immediately report to me." Yes, she brought a total of 9 martial cultivators, all of whom were divine tier elites. The weakest among them was at least 2 divine tier elites, and they were all young. The strongest among them was, of course, herself at 5 divine tier elites. Everyone spread out and began to search the snowy forest. Long Yu and Shu Chan hid in the dark, and even within 100 zhang of Bai Qing, they observed everything. Only Bai Qing appeared with so few people. It seems that she did not tell the people of Ice Heaven Valley about our whereabouts. Shu Chan thought for a moment and said, "Could it be that she wants to catch us alone and then take credit from Emperor Tianqin?" "That's very likely." Long Yu nodded. Currying favor with Emperor Tianqin is too beneficial for Bai Qing. Let's kill our way out, and kill her first. Killing intent flashed in Shu Chan's eyes. "Wait." Long Yu spoke out to stop her. Observing the situation, his eyes flickered with a bright light. "Look at her subordinates. Although they've spread out to search for us, they haven't gone far. Instead, they've been maintaining a distance from Bai Qing." After hearing Long Yu's words, Shu Chan deliberately paid attention and found that it was indeed so. Bai Qing had brought 9 subordinates, and each of them had spread out in all directions, but they all maintained a distance of 100 zhang from her. Moreover, if one looked closely, they could see that Bai Qing and her 9 subordinates were all extremely nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. Could it be that she guessed that we were hiding here and wanted to assassinate her? Shu Chan suddenly realized. It's not clear for the time being, but if we really want to search for someone, we can't do it like this. Long Yu said, "We definitely have to make a move, but we can't do it directly." She guessed that we want to deal with her first, but we won't. Let's cut off her wings first. Good idea. Shu Chan's eyes lit up. At this time, she felt that Long Yu's observation was too detailed, and if it wasn't for Long Yu's reminder, she would have already attacked Bai Qing, and then fell into Bai Qing's trap. As for Long Yu's suggestion, it was obvious that it was much more scientific. Bai Qing certainly wouldn't have expected to attack one of her 9 subordinates, and even if she had made some preparations, Long Yu and Shu Chan only needed to pick the most inconspicuous guy to attack, and the other side wouldn't be prepared. Moreover, this way, even if Long Yu and Shu Chan missed their attack, they would be able to retreat as quickly as possible and wouldn't be trapped in the center like when their sneak attack on Bai Qing had failed. In the next moment, Long Yu and Shu Chan made their moves separately. Shu Chan's target was a young martial cultivator at the 4 divine realm, and he had comprehended the power of the ice divine text. Long Yu's target was the weakest martial cultivator at the 2 divine realm, and judging from his aura, he was a young genius who had comprehended the Thunder Divine Text. The Thunder Divine Text didn't belong to one of the 8 Divine Text attributes, but was a branch of one of them, the Elemental Divine Text attribute. The Divine Text attributes were divided into 8 main categories: shadow and light, ice and fire, life, space, berserk, and elemental. The first Divine Text that Long Yu had come into contact with, the Fighting Divine Text, was a branch of the berserk attribute. As for the Elemental Divine Text, it had the most branches, but it was relatively rare in the Azura Commandery. In the Azura Commandery, more than half of the martial cultivators comprehended the Shadow Divine Text, such as the Azura Divine Text, or some of the Divine Text derived from the Azura Divine Text. This was the first time that Long Yu faced an opponent who had comprehended the Thunder Divine Text, but he wasn't unfamiliar with the power of the Thunder attribute. Whether it was the sky-piercing lightning pool that allowed him to cultivate the sky-piercing lightning tyrant body, or the death god's heavenly tribulation that caused him to face the lightning of death, he had a deep understanding of both. His opponent was only a 2 Divine Realm fellow. It was impossible for Long Yu to fail. The Nether Void Dragon Blade was grasped in his hand, and in the next instant, a jet-black light pierced towards the nervous young genius. Pung! The young genius's reaction was fast. The main reason was that he was already in a nervous state. Unfortunately, he didn't think that he would be the target of a sneak attack. There was a flash of lightning. This fellow had used a technique in a moment of desperation, and it was a Sciention attack that exploded in front of Long Yu. However, the Nether Void Dragon Blade in Long Yu's hand pierced through the young genius's chest without any resistance. Chapter 619. Long Yu had guessed that his opponent would retaliate before his death, but he didn't expect it to be so ferocious. Lightning exploded and blasted him back dozens of meters. Fortunately, he had tempered his body with the 9 Nether Divine characters and achieved the 9 Nether Dominating Body. Therefore, the all-out attack from 2 Transcendent Realm cultivators didn't inflict any serious injuries on him. When Long Yu activated the self-healing divine characters in his body, his injuries were completely healed in just a few breaths' time. On the other side, Shu Chan's target was a 4 Transcendent Realm cultivator. She had already succeeded. That guy's chest was pierced by the Azura Absolute Ray, and his heart meridian was crushed. In just an instant, 2 of Bai Qing's 9 subordinates had died, and the others didn't even have time to react. Surround and kill Long Yu. Seeing this, Bai Qing immediately issued an order. At the same time, she sprinted towards Shu Chan. Ice divine characters blossomed from her body, and the innate ice mountain was unleashed. A wave of biting cold ice roared towards Shu Chan. As for her other subordinates, they surrounded Long Yu one by one. 7 against 1, this was already a very conservative and safe method. Bai Qing didn't believe that Long Yu could escape. Seeing this, Long Yu was a little surprised. He didn't expect Bai Qing to value him so much. But then again, he remembered that he had made several bets with Bai Qing before. Every time, Bai Qing would lose face, and she would lose many good things, especially the Desolate level warrior. Now that Bai Qing hated him to the bone, it wasn't too much for her to value him. Since you want to surround and kill me, come at me. The corner of Long Yu's lips curled up. He had expected this to happen when he launched the sneak attack. Therefore, he chose to assassinate the person at the edge. Now that the others were surrounding him, he could easily turn around and run. Dragon Sparrow Instant Space, Shadow Flow Burst. After executing the 2 movement techniques, Long Yu's body turned into a pitch-black ray of light as he sped off into the distance. He then transformed into the Dragon Sparrow, maintaining a terrifying speed. If it was an opponent of the same martial Dao realm, they definitely wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Unfortunately, among Bai Qing's remaining 7 subordinates, there was a 5 Divine Realm expert and 2 4 Divine Realm experts. These 3 people were also following closely behind Long Yu at an extremely fast speed, making it impossible for him to pull away. Facing the 7 subordinates of Bai Qing, Long Yu naturally had to escape. If he fought them head-on, he would be chopped into pieces in minutes. During the process of the chase, Many martial cultivators in the vicinity noticed the traces of Long Yu and Bai Qing's subordinates. All of them moved far away and didn't dare to interfere. All of them started whispering to each other. It wouldn't be long before the news of Long Yu and Shu Chan's appearance would reach the ears of the Tianqing dynasty and the ghost evil county. Divine concealment. After running for several kilometers, the corner of Long Yu's mouth curled up. He suddenly used the divine concealment technique and disappeared from the air. Where is he? Bai Qing's subordinates, who were in hot pursuit of Long Yu, quickly turned their gazes towards the white-robed martial cultivator who had comprehended the radiant divine rune. After chasing Long Yu for so long, this person must have placed a radiant divine rune on Long Yu's body. However, this guy's face was now ashen. I can't find him. When he concealed himself, he destroyed the radiance mark I placed on his body. This person's face was extremely gloomy. He had never seen such a situation before. It must be known that this radiance mark could even track Shu Chan, but it couldn't track a stinky brat at the divine realm. Damn it, let's go back to Boss Bai. The leader of the 5 divine realm experts' face changed slightly. He quickly turned around and returned to the place where Bai Qing and Shu Chan were fighting. With his words, the others also reacted. According to Long Yu's sinister and cunning personality, he might even run back to join hands with Shu Chan to deal with Bai Qing. If that really happened, it would be bad. Although Long Yu was only at the divine realm, his strength had reached the 4 divine realms. With the addition of Shu Chan, Bai Qing might not be able to deal with them. Everyone hurried back, but they didn't know that Long Yu was leisurely following behind them. He didn't do as everyone thought and join hands with Shu Chan to deal with Bai Qing. Instead, he did the opposite and followed behind these martial cultivators, waiting for an opportunity to strike. You're the one. Long Yu locked his eyes on the white-robed young man who had comprehended the Radiant's divine text and was ready to assassinate him. However, it was obviously not a good time because the 7 people were rushing back in a circle, obviously afraid that Long Yu would launch a sneak attack. The 7 of them had a deep impression of Long Yu's assassination methods. Be it assassinating the young master of Ice Heaven Valley by tongue, right under the eyes of the Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley, or assassinating 2 of them together with Shu Chan. They all felt that Long Yu had come and gone like a ghost, causing chills to run down their spines. Kill. Long Yu secretly condensed a primordial shadow, and with his fastest speed, he charged towards the weakest of the 3 transcendent realm martial cultivators. The Nether Dragon 9 explosions was directly executed, and the roar of a dragon resounded from all directions as the 9 Nether Divine runes pressed towards the martial cultivator. As soon as Long Yu's primordial shadow appeared, these people immediately tensed up. They immediately reacted and attacked the shadow. All kinds of divine text condensed into martial skills and innate divine skills, instantly shattering the primordial shadow of Long Yu into pieces. As expected, they're guarding against me, and their reactions are so fast. It's too difficult to assassinate even one of them, Long Yu thought to himself as he hid in the dark. The primordial shadow was destroyed as soon as it appeared, and they didn't even have the time to release the Nether Dragon 9 explosions. It was clear that these 7 people had good teamwork and were already guarding against Long Yu's sneak attack. In this way, if Long Yu wanted to make a move himself, he would undoubtedly be courting death. There was no chance at all. Primordial shadow, let's continue. Long Yu thought for a moment and came up with an idea. He then formed a second primordial shadow and launched a sneak attack towards one of them, continuing to execute the Nether Dragon 9 explosions. Without any suspense, this primordial shadow was still destroyed by the 7 people. However, what awaited them was the third primordial shadow. Long Yu left behind one primordial shadow after another to assassinate Bai Qing's subordinates. As for himself, he was already rushing towards Bai Qing and Shu Chan at his fastest speed. He wasn't worried that Shu Chan would lose to Bai Qing, but they couldn't delay for too long. Otherwise, when the people from the Tianqing dynasty and the ghost evil county arrived, they wouldn't be able to escape. Long Yu didn't feel that his divine concealment technique was omnipotent. It was just a derivative of the primordial shadow kill that he cultivated to the peak. There were still many ways to break his concealment technique. Leaving behind a primordial shadow to delay the 7 people wouldn't be able to delay them for too long. At most, it would take an incense stick's worth of time. However, Long Yu cleverly made use of the 7 people's mentality. Since his illusions appeared, the 7 people would definitely think that his real body was nearby. Naturally, they wouldn't be in a hurry to leave. Even if it was just a moment of hesitation, it was enough to buy some time for Long Yu. And during the battle between Shu Quan and Bai Qing, Long Yu only needed to appear for a moment to help Shu Quan win. Long Yu rushed back at his fastest speed. Soon, he felt the power of the Azura and Ice Divine runes rushing towards him. The battle between Shu Quan and Bai Qing was obviously intense. As the 4th disciple of the Azura King, Bai Qing also had a great desolate grade weapon as a reward from the Tianqing dynasty. Thus, she was able to fight back against Shu Quan. The first thing that entered Long Yu's eyes was a road of ice spikes formed by Bai Qing. This was one of her innate techniques. She could condense ice spikes to form a narrow road, forcing the opponent into it, and then killing them. Unfortunately, Shu Quan seemed to have only casually used the technique, and she broke open the path of ice thorns, blasting a large gap in the middle. Long Yu quickly found the 2 girls who were in the middle of a battle. Sensing the 7 Bai Qing subordinates chasing after him, he knew that he didn't have much time left. Innate technique, Hen of 9 Nether, hiding in the dark. Long Yu suddenly attacked with an innate technique, descending on Bai Qing's head. A white bow and arm that seemed to have come from the netherworld directly appeared from the void and grabbed Bai Qing, who was fighting with Shu Quan. In the next moment, the power of the 9 Nether Divine runes burst out and corroded Bai Qing's body. "You're shameless." Bai Qing's expression changed greatly. She quickly circulated the power of the Ice Divine runes to resist the invasion of the 9 Nether Divine runes. With her martial arts realm, it was too easy for her to resist Long Yu's hand of 9 Nether under normal circumstances. But now, she was in the middle of a battle with Shu Quan. When Shu Quan saw such an opportunity, she naturally wouldn't miss it. She immediately displayed the Azura Eye and activated its 2nd stage, Eye Opening. The power of the Azura Divine runes combined with the power of Long Yu's 9 Nether Divine runes, trapping Bai Qing in place. Then, the desolate Azura compass flew out, and countless black beams of light descended on Bai Qing's head. Bai Qing and Shu Quan were originally evenly matched. But now that Long Yu had used the hand of 9 Nether, she could only forcefully use a small portion of her power to resist the 9 Nether Divine runes. Like this, Shu Quan's Azura Divine runes could directly suppress her. Ice Explosion. Bai Qing knew the situation was bad from the moment she was attacked by Long Yu. When Shu Quan's attack arrived, she could only display her strongest innate technique. The power of the Ice Divine runes exploded, trying to disperse the power of Shu Quan's Azura Divine runes. Bai Qing's methods weren't weak. Even in such a situation, Shu Quan couldn't kill her in a single strike. Bai Qing stubbornly resisted. But in the next moment, while Bai Qing was focused on resisting Shu Quan, Long Yu suddenly appeared behind Bai Qing with a Nether Void Dragon Blade in his hand. Nether Void Dragon Blade, Soul Explosion. Long Yu had already used the Nether Void Dragon Blade to absorb the soul seals of 7 of Bai Qing's subordinates. Now that he absorbed Bai Qing's soul seals, the power of 8 people's soul seals erupted at the same time. Chapter 620. With Long Yu's 1-Dao tier cultivation, if he dared to get close to Bai Qing, she could easily kill him without using too much power. Therefore, Bai Qing did not expect that Long Yu would suddenly attack her at this time and attack her. Unfortunately, all of Bai Qing's power was used to resist Shu Quan's attacks. She really didn't guard against Long Yu. In a hurry, she could only activate the power of the divine ice script in her body and completely turn herself into an ice sculpture. This was her last defensive measure. After turning into an ice sculpture, the power of the divine ice script covered her body, greatly increasing her defense. Not to mention a 1 tier martial cultivator. Even a 7 tier martial cultivator 2 realms higher than her might not be able to break through her ice sculpture defense. Unfortunately, the power of the soul explosion that Long Yu ignited with the Void Dragon Blade was beyond Bai Qing's imagination. Including Bai Qing's soul seal, Long Yu is currently absorbing the soul seals of 8 powerful young geniuses. When these soul seals were added together, it could increase the power of the Void Dragon Blade by 4 to 5 times. With so many soul seals exploding, the power was unimaginable. Together with Shu Chan's desolate Azura compass, it heavily smashed into Bai Qing's ice sculpture. In just an instant, many cracks appeared. In the blink of an eye, the power of the soul explosion completely erupted. Shu Chan also took the opportunity to pour all of her power into the desolate Azura compass, activating a derivative technique that was compatible with the desolate Azura compass. A burst of Azura divine rune power condensed into a bunch of pitch-black threads that easily broke through Bai Qing's ice sculpture. Bai Qing's ice sculpture, whether it was used to defend against Long Yu or Shu Chan, was more than enough. However, now that the two of them worked together, they directly broke through the ice sculpture. The desolate Azura compass was the first to succeed. It condensed into a thin black line, and with the strongest penetrating power, it shattered the surface of the ice statue in one fell swoop. Then, the power of the Azura divine script surged in, breaking the entire ice statue from the inside. Bai Qing let out a fierce bellow and waved the ice crystal longsword in her hand, attempting to use this desolate-grade battle weapon to fend off Shu Chan's attacks. She knew very well that if she didn't fend off Shu Chan's attacks, she would only be left with a dead end. Unfortunately, Long Yu's Void Dragon Blade took advantage of this and stabbed into her back. The power of the 9 Nether Divine rune invaded her body, strangling towards her heart. Attacked from inside and outside, Bai Qing had almost no ability to resist. She risked her life, wanting to swing the ice crystal longsword in her hand to kill Long Yu. The only thing they were afraid of was the sinister Ghost County Duke coming to capture them personally. That wouldn't be fun. Of course, even if that was the case, the two of them wouldn't be without a trump card to escape. The 1,000 dream stones in Shu Chan's hands were her biggest trump card. One had to know that Shu Chan's mother, Shu Ruoxian, was a true Emperor Realm expert. However, due to some reason, she had lost her physical body and could only hide in the dream stones in her spiritual state. Bai Qing is already dead. I wonder how Tian Xinghe is doing now. Long Yu narrowed his eyes as he walked forward. No matter what, he's my target. Along the way, it's said that Tian Xinghe and Bai Qing became the Tianqing dynasty's lackeys and hunted down many of my father's loyal followers. A murderous intent flashed in Shu Chan's eyes. They even pretended to be loyal to my father and deceived many of my father's former subordinates. They even killed them. Such a scheme is truly vicious and merciless. It's also because of this that they were able to make such great contributions to the Tianqing dynasty. Long Yu nodded inwardly when he heard this. One couldn't blame Shu Chan for being so obsessed with killing Bai Qing. It was just that Bai Qing's actions during this period of time had truly chilled her heart. Originally, Shu Chan thought that even if Bai Qing and Tian Xinghe were forced to rely on the Tianqing dynasty, it was just for show. She didn't expect them to really do it and even participate in the killing of the Azura King's former subordinates. If they were given more time, Hui Yuan Bai would probably become one of their targets. Fortunately, Long Yu and Shu Chan made a trip back and rescued Hui Yuan Bai and the others. The two of them rode the Azura Spirit ship high in the clouds and traveled at extreme speed. Under such circumstances, it wouldn't be easy for those who knew their whereabouts to find them. However, it was likely that the people from the Tianqing dynasty and evil Ghost County knew their destination by now. As long as they pursued in this direction, they would definitely meet them. Very soon, 6 hours passed. The two of them were less than 2 hours away from the valley where the Azura Sacred Tree was. As long as they reached the valley where the Azura sacred tree was and controlled the Azura sacred tree, the two of them could quickly kill their way out of Azura County and leave the Tianqin dynasty. However, at this moment, a group of martial cultivators in crimson robes appeared in their line of sight. Moreover, they quickly discovered the Azura spirit ship and immediately surrounded them at the fastest speed possible. They're from the Crimson Moon Valley. Shu Chan's expression froze. She recognized the group of martial cultivators in crimson robes at a glance. The Crimson Moon Valley. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. Young Master Qi was killed by us in the ancient Shura Palace. I'm sure the people of the Scarlet Moon Valley already know about it. The Scarlet Moon Valley Master must be furious. It's normal for him to send people to kill us. These days, the Crimson Moon Valley has been acting arrogantly under the tacit approval of the Tianqin dynasty. They've been suppressing and robbing martial cultivators in Azura County everywhere, causing complaints everywhere. Shu Chan said, "We have to be careful now that we've encountered them. If the Valley Master of the Crimson Moon Valley is nearby, that old man won't be easy to deal with." Okay, Long Yu nodded. He then realized that the martial cultivators in crimson robes from the Crimson Moon Valley were actually led by a familiar person, Yun Jintian. Once, when Long Yu went to the Crimson Moon Valley to sell the blue luster diamonds, this so-called young genius, Yun Jintian, once ridiculed Long Yu as a weakling who only knew how to hide behind a woman. Long Yu then arranged a battle with this Yun Jintian, saying that when Long Yu stepped into the Divine Ability Secret Realm, he would fight this Yun Jintian to death. Who would have thought that by the time Long Yu stepped into the Divine Ability Secret Realm, such a great change had already happened in Azura County? This Yun Jintian's cultivation base was at the Divine Ability Secret Realm, but it was said that all his innate divine abilities were only at the first heavenly layer. His true strength was extremely weak, but if he really fought with Long Yu, his Divine Ability Secret Realm cultivation base was not just for show. He was at least 10 times stronger than Long Yu. It's Yun Jintian and Uncle Qi. Shu Chan frowned slightly. As for the others, most of them are from the Heavenly Human Secret Realm. Roundworm Lottery, Dan, Stupid Emperor of Nunnery Qian, Yu Lu Lame, Falcon, this tyrant Sun Chuan Bag Huan Fong, Nephew Sakura, Alpha Kansogen, Lu Rong Qua Omega I Hui Yong Qua Xia. Then there's nothing to be afraid of. A cold light glinted in Long Yu's eyes. Let's continue to work together and try to kill that Uncle Qi and Yun Jintian. Whether we succeed or not, we'll leave after one strike and rush to the Azura Holy Tree Valley as fast as we can. All right, Shu Chan nodded seriously. She also couldn't get used to Yun Jintian's high and mighty appearance. He was clearly a good-for-nothing, but because he had a good father, he used medicinal strength to reach the 5th transcendent realm. Now that she had bumped into Yun Jintian, Shu Chan wanted to try and kill him. Of course, what made Shu Chan the most unhappy with Yun Jintian was the actions of the Crimson Moon Valley during this period of time. When the Azura County fell, the Crimson Moon Valley sided with the Tianqin dynasty and acted as an accomplice, causing the entire Azura County to be in a foul atmosphere. Moreover, because the Dark Shadow Devil sect was destroyed, they claimed to be the #1 sect in the Nightmare mining area. They were shameless to the extreme. Not only did the changes in the Azura County not weaken the vitality of the Crimson Moon Valley, it even allowed the Crimson Moon Valley to plunder a large amount of wealth, developing even more powerfully than before. The Azura Spirit ship moved forward at extreme speed, not slowing down at all. When Yun Jintian and Uncle Qi saw the figures of Shu Chan and Long Yu, they immediately sent people to leave the team. It seemed like they were going to inform the other search teams. Chapter 621. With regard to Yun Jintian and Uncle Qi's obstruction, Shu Chan and Long Yu did not take it to heart. You deal with Uncle Qi, I'll deal with Yun Jintian. Go! Long Yu made up his mind and quickly disappeared from Yun Jintian and Uncle Qi's sight. Uncle Qi was the chief steward of the Red Moon Valley trading house. Of course, he would always stand on the side of the valley. Previously, when Long Yu went to the Red Moon Valley trading house to sell the green diamond, it was Uncle Chi who personally received him. This person was only at the 5 Daos Divine Realm, but in terms of combat strength, he was definitely much stronger than Yun Jintian. One had to know that Yun Jintian had only reached the 5 Daos Divine Realm with the help of elixirs. His various innate abilities were only at the first heaven level, and his understanding of martial skills and divine runes was even worse. Of course, being able to step into the 5 Daos Divine Realm meant that Yun Jintian was talented, but among all the 5 Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators, Yun Jintian was definitely the weakest. In addition to the fact that Long Yu had promised Yun Jintian a battle, now was the time to fulfill his promise. When Long Yu concealed himself, Yun Jintian and Uncle Chi could only see Shu Chan's figure. She left the Azura spiritual ship and flew straight towards them. Is that kid afraid? Yun Jintian chuckled. He did not expect Long Yu to have the guts to face so many of them. He and Uncle Chi were both 5 Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators. Even if the other people from the Red Moon Valley warned him not to act recklessly, Yun Jintian still felt that he was much stronger than Long Yu. Your Highness, please stop. Uncle Chi looked at Shu Chan with a serious expression. The power of divine runes rose from his body because he saw that not only did Shu Chan not stop, she looked like she was going to force her way through. You want to stop me? The corner of Shu Chan's mouth curved upwards. The desolate realm combat weapon, the desolate Azura compass, was released with a wave of her hand. Countless pitch-black Azura beams shot out from the compass, roaring towards Uncle Chi, great desolation warrior. Seeing this, Uncle Chi's expression changed. A great desolate grade combat weapon was not something to be trifled with. He had lived for more than 200 years, but he had never obtained a great desolate grade combat weapon, not even a low-rank one. Not to mention that the primordial Azura compass was a mid-tier, grand desolate grade battle weapon. Of course, Uncle Chi knew that Shu Chan, as the Shura princess, wouldn't be easy to deal with, but he didn't expect her to take out the desolate level combat weapon right away. Humph! I also have a great desolation warrior. Yun Jintian snorted lightly at the side. Princess Shu Chan, it's best if you obediently surrender. Otherwise, when our Scarlet Moon Valley's army arrives, only death awaits you if you stubbornly resist. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Jintian raised his hand and summoned a great desolate-level combat weapon long whip. The long whip was burning with raging flames, and he swung it towards the pitch-black Azura light released by the primordial Azura compass. Although this great desolate-level combat weapon long whip was only a low-tier, great desolate-level weapon, it was still able to withstand Shu Chan's primordial Azura compass. However, what Yun Jintian didn't expect was that the reason why Long Yu disappeared in front of them was not because he was afraid of them, but because he was waiting for a chance to launch a sneak attack. Just as Yun Jintian took out the great desolate-level flame whip battle weapon, Long Yu quietly appeared behind him, holding an ice snow sword and a nether void dragon blade. The former was a mid-tier, grand, desolate-level combat weapon obtained from Bai Qing, and the latter was a top-tier ancient grade combat weapon. Two combat weapons appearing behind Yun Jintian at the same time gave him a great shock. Uncle Chi, help me! Yun Jintian shouted. Uncle Chi naturally reacted and wanted to stop Long Yu at the first moment. However, Shu Chan, who was in front of him, let out a light laugh and displayed her innate divine ability, Eye of Azura. A pair of pitch-black pupils appeared in midair, and the power of the Azura divine runes descended, directly enveloping Uncle Chi's body, causing him to be unable to move for a moment. In the next moment, Uncle Chi could only watch as Long Yu's ice snow sword slashed to the flame whip. At the same time, the nether void dragon blade in Long Yu's hand directly pierced into Yun Jintian's back. Unable to withstand a single blow, Yun Jintian didn't even have any decent means to resist. While the flame whip was blocked by Long Yu, the nether void dragon blade pierced into Yun Jintian's back and shattered his heart. Of course, Yun Jintian was mainly dealing with Shu Chan's primordial azure compass. However, this also showed that this person had very little battle experience and poor battle awareness. He actually didn't have the slightest bit of defense against a possible sneak attack. Azura Absolute Light. Seeing that Long Yu had succeeded, Shu Chan also raised her small hand and condensed a pitch-black Azura Absolute Light. With a loud bang, she attacked Uncle Chi, who was locked in place by the eye of the Azura. Although Uncle Chi was old, he only had the cultivation of the 5 Daos divine power realm. Facing a tyrannical existence like Shu Chan, he didn't have the ability to resist at all. If Yun Jintian was still here, he might be able to help him. But now, Yun Jintian couldn't even last a single round against Long Yu before stepping on the Yellow Springs Road. As for the Scarlet Moon Valley disciples that Uncle Chi and Yun Jintian had brought with them, they couldn't do anything in this situation at all. They could only watch helplessly as Shu Chan and Long Yu slaughtered Uncle Chi and Yun Jintian. In the next moment, Uncle Chi finally broke free from the shackles of the Eye of the Azura. Just as he was about to deal with Shu Chan's Azura Absolute Light, Long Yu's innate divine power, Hand of 9 Nether, directly corroded his body. The power of the 9 Nether divine characters corroded Uncle Chi's body. At first, he didn't pay much attention to it. He just wanted to resist Shu Chan's Azura Absolute Light. However, Uncle Chi soon discovered that the power of the 9 Nether divine characters was wreaking havoc in his body. It had actually weakened his strength by 80%. When the Azura Absolute Light arrived, Uncle Chi was already unable to resist it. His chest was directly pierced through, and his heart was pierced through. Before he died, there was a look of disbelief in his eyes. Obviously, he didn't expect that the combined forces of Shu Chan and Long Yu could produce such a powerful force. Let's go. After the successful attack, Long Yu and Shu Chan didn't continue fighting. They immediately returned to the Azura Spirit ship and continued to move forward. Long Yu only took the Great Desolate Grade battle weapon, which was a flame whip battle weapon, from Yun Jintian's body. As the two left, the other Scarlet Moon Valley disciples did not dare to stop them. They could only look at the direction in which the two left and follow from afar. They constantly used special methods to report the two's location. At this moment, the valley where the Azura Sacred Tree was located was very close. Just one more step, and they would be able to step into it. However, at this moment, 2 figures covered in flames suddenly appeared in front of them. They directly blocked the path of Long Yu and Shu Chan. Obviously, they had received news of the two's whereabouts. They are from Liang County. Seeing this, Long Yu frowned slightly. The 2 flaming figures in front of him were actually Yang Guan and Yang Kong from Liang County. These 2 had once colluded with the Zhou family of Azura Valley to deal with Hui Yuanbai and take over the position of Nightmare Legion's army commander. However, Long Yu and Azura King saw through their scheme and chased them away. Unexpectedly, they came to Azura Valley again. It seemed that they didn't give up. Let's kill them and charge into Azura Sacred Tree Valley. Shu Chan's eyes flickered with boundless killing intent when she saw the 2 of them. To her, anyone who was doing well in Ashura County was her enemy. Azura King's death by Emperor Tianqin was obviously a big blow to Shu Chan, causing her to be filled with killing intent. It would not be easy to kill Yang Guan and Yang Kong, who were at the 7 Daos divine realm. In any case, Long Yu could not help much, so he could only rely on Shu Chan. As for Long Yu, he looked at the valley where the Azura Sacred Tree was located not far away. The layer of Azura divine runes that formed a light yellow barrier was still there. As long as he could break through the light yellow barrier, he would be able to see the Azura Sacred Tree again. No matter how Shu Chan wanted to kill Yang Guan and Yang Kong, Long Yu now only needed to prepare the Azura Source Stone and control the Azura Sacred Tree as soon as possible. Oh, isn't this the princess of Azura County? I've heard that this lass is very pretty. Now that I see it, it seems that it's true. Yang Guan and Yang Kong blocked in front of the 2, not putting them in their eyes at all. Instead, they began to tease Shu Chan, she's not bad-looking, and her martial arts talent is not bad either. It's a pity that she doesn't know how to behave and doesn't know what's good for her. She actually dared to go against Emperor Tianqin. Isn't she courting death? Yang Guan and Yang Kong were both middle-aged men, and their appearances were similar. However, their eyes were filled with vulgarity as they stared at Shu Quan with malicious intent. Brother, do you think it's impossible for Emperor Qian of Tianqin to bestow her to us if we capture her? Of course. Emperor Tianqin can't wait for this lass to suffer the greatest suffering in the world. If she falls into our hands, we'll definitely let her know how powerful we are, haha. Look, that lass's face is red with anger. The two of them spoke unscrupulously, not caring that Shu Quan was right in front of them. For Yang Guan and Yang Kong, their current mission was to stop the two of them, but they did not dare to act rashly. They had heard that even the Valley Master of Ice Heaven Valley had not been able to capture these two little guys. They had to focus all their attention on surrounding Shu Quan and wait for the other reinforcements to arrive so that they could capture the two together. Therefore, using words to pressure Shu Quan was the best thing they could do now. Unfortunately, they did not expect that Shu Quan had planned to kill them from the very beginning. No matter how much they said, the result would be the same. Dreamland Stone, Mother, appear. Cold killing intent flashed in Shu Quan's eyes. She then raised her hand and threw out 1,000 Dreamland attribute stones. It was impossible for Shu Quan to kill two experts in the 7 Taoist divine power realm with her own strength, so she could only use her last resort, the Dreamland Stone. Shu Quan's mother, Shu Ruoxian, had her physical body destroyed, leaving only her spirit in the Dreamland Stone. No matter what, she was still an Emperor Path Secret Realm expert. When the Dreamland Stone appeared, the power of the Dreamland Divine text instantly spread to the scene, completely enveloping Yang Guan and Yang Kong. Chapter 622. As Yang Guan and Yang Kong's eyes became dull, the 1,000 Dreamscape stones fused together and revealed Shu Ruoxian's slender figure. Shu Ruoxian's phantom raised her hand, and the tyrannical power of the dream trapped Yang Guan and Yang Kong, making them unable to extricate themselves. Kill! Shu Quan took advantage of this opportunity to launch an attack. The ancient Azura compass shot out at the fastest speed, and the violent Azura divine runes tore Yang Guan and Yang Kong to pieces. The power of the fire divine runes exploded, but it couldn't hurt Shu Quan or Long Yu. Thank you, Mother. Shu Quan smiled at Shu Ruoxian's phantom. Shu Ruoxian pursed her lips and looked gently at Shu Quan, then at Long Yu with satisfaction. She didn't say anything and returned to the Dreamscape Stone to rest. It was not easy for Shu Ruoxian to activate the power of the Dreamland, especially since Yang Guan and Yang Kong were both experts in the 7 Taoist divinity realm. If she wanted to make them lose their ability to fight and be killed by Shu Quan, she would need to consume a lot of the Dreamland Stone's power. Shu Ruoxian needed to rest for a while before she could fight again. Shu Quan's greatest guarantee of safety was the Dreamscape Stone, and she couldn't afford to lose her ability to fight. So poor. You don't even have a great desolate level warrior. Long Yu casually searched Yang Guan and Yang Kong's broken bodies and said with disappointment, "Do you think a great desolate level warrior is something that anyone can have?" Shu Quan rolled her eyes and chuckled. "We've gained a lot this time, so don't be greedy. The most important thing is to control the Azura Sacred Tree and leave this place as soon as possible. Don't forget about the Shadow Trace's treasury." Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He had never forgotten about the Shadow Trace and the Shadow King's hidden treasury. There must be a lot of cultivation resources in there. The Shadow King's treasury was definitely much richer than Ice Heaven Valley's. That depends on whether or not you can control the Azura Holy Tree. Shu Quan looked at Long Yu with provocative eyes. "Then follow me and watch." Long Yu chuckled and flew toward the valley where the Azura Sacred Tree was at its fastest speed. Since the Azura Holy Tree Valley was just a few feet away, he didn't even need to take out the Azura Spirit Boat. He just needed to rush in. As for the faint yellow light barrier, Long Yu could easily destroy it with the help of the Azura Origin Stone. However, at this moment, a figure shrouded in flames flew towards the path that Long Yu had taken. Long Yu, be careful. Shu Chan followed closely behind Long Yu. Seeing this, her expression changed. Lifting her hand, she condensed the power of Azura divine runes at the fastest speed and smashed them towards the fiery, red-robed figure. Little brats, the game ends here. With a roar, the fiery, red-robed figure raised his hand and unleashed the endless power of fire divine runes, burning Shu Chan's Azura divine runes into nothingness. This person was from the King Path Mystic Realm. He was the father of the Scarlet Moon Valley's Scarlet Shaoyin, the Scarlet Moon Valley's Valley Master. Long Yu had seen this burly man before and had a deep impression of him. He didn't expect this burly man to suddenly appear below him and try to stop him. Primordial Shadow. Long Yu condensed 4 primordial shadows at the fastest speed and flew toward the valley where the Azura Holy Tree was, splitting into 5 different directions. Although I don't know why you want to break into the Azura Holy Tree Valley, with me blocking the way, you 2 brats can forget about getting away with it. The tyrannical Scarlet Moon Valley Master was covered in flames. The power of fire divine runes swept out and burned Long Yu's 4 primordial shadows at the same time. Now, the Scarlet Moon Valley Master wasn't familiar with Long Yu's methods and didn't expect Long Yu to take the opportunity to hide himself. Moreover, he didn't move forward but instead retreated to Shu Chan's side. Let's go. Long Yu grabbed Shu Chan's soft and slender waist and brought her into a state of concealment. Then, they flew into the sky. While the Scarlet Moon Valley Master was wondering where Long Yu and Shu Chan had gone after killing the 4 primordial shadows, Long Yu had already taken Shu Chan and entered the light yellow barrier of the Azura Holy Tree Valley. They're really courting death. The Scarlet Moon Valley Master saw the gap in the light yellow barrier. Of course, he knew that Shu Chan and Long Yu had entered. However, he couldn't understand why these 2 brats would enter the Azura Holy Tree Valley. If they wanted to release the Azura Holy Tree, then the first ones to be killed by the Azura Holy Tree would definitely be Shu Chan and Long Yu. The Scarlet Moon Valley Master really couldn't figure out what the 2's motives were. However, the Scarlet Moon Valley Master naturally wouldn't give up just like that. He spread the news that Shu Chan and Long Yu had entered the Azura Holy Tree Valley. Not long after, the entire Azura Holy Tree Valley was surrounded by martial cultivators from the Tianqing dynasty, Scarlet Moon Valley, Ghost Evil Prefecture, and other sects that had surrendered to the Tianqing dynasty. A total of tens of thousands of people had completely surrounded the Azura Holy Tree Valley in less than an incense stick's time. Even if Shu Chan and Long Yu could come out of the Azura Holy Tree Valley, it was impossible for them to escape. Among the tens of thousands of martial cultivators, there were hundreds who had comprehended the power of the radiant divine text. How could they let Long Yu and Shu Chan leave? At the place where Long Yu and Shu Chan had entered the Azura Holy Tree Valley, there were several experts gathered together. One of them was the Scarlet Moon Valley Master. He wore a fiery red robe and had a burly figure, exuding an awe-inspiring aura. Another person wore a black robe and was shrouded in a layer of eerie, ghostly mist. He carried a black scythe on his back. He was the Ghost Evil King from the Ghost Evil Prefecture. 2 Emperor Path Arcane Realm experts had surrounded the Azura Holy Tree Valley, making the entire valley impenetrable. In addition, there were many 7 Daos Divine Realm experts, such as the former Azura Valley Imperial Army Deputy Commander, Zhou Fong, and the Scarlet Moon Valley Master's adopted son, Qi Xiaofeng. This person was only 1 step away from entering the Emperor Path Arcane Realm. In addition, there were some 7 Daos Divine Realm generals from the Tianqing dynasty. They were sent over by the Tianqing Emperor to help govern the Azura Prefecture. There were about a dozen of them, and they were all extremely tyrannical existences in the Azura Prefecture. I didn't expect them to break into the Azura Holy Tree Valley. Looks like we should prepare to deal with that thing. The Scarlet Moon Valley Master said in a low voice. Those two brats. I'm afraid they don't dare to disturb that thing. The ghost evil king's voice was sinister. If they disturb the Azura holy tree, they will die first. There's no way they can survive. It's hard to say. The former Imperial Army Deputy Commander, Zhou Fong, frowned and said, "That Long Yu has always been hiding something, and we can't see through him. This time, you might also have a trump card. If that happens, I'm afraid we'll suffer a great loss." Those two brats want us to suffer a loss? The Scarlet Moon Valley Master's face was filled with disdain, but he didn't say much. He only said, "Hurry and get Skystar River here. Doesn't he have people under him that can break this Azura light curtain? Let's break it open and see what those two little bastards are doing inside." "Right. Hurry and get Skystar River here." The Scarlet Moon Valley's Qi Xiaofeng also nodded. These days, he had finally come out from the shadows. He still had to thank Shu Chan and Long Yu for killing Qi Xiaoying. Qi Xiaofeng had already interacted with Skystar River and knew that this person's talent wasn't weak. Moreover, he seemed to have many connections. At the very least, it wouldn't be difficult for him to open the Azura Holy Tree's light curtain. In order to open the Azura Holy Tree's light curtain, one must comprehend the Azura divine runes. Right now, there were nearly 10,000 people surrounding the Azura Holy Tree Valley, but none of them could do so. The Azura Holy Tree was not something to be trifled with. It was extremely difficult to deal with. Thus, even the heavily injured Emperor Tianqin had not thought of attacking it. He would only deal with it when he had the time. Who would have thought that Long Yu and Shu Chan would come all the way here and hide inside? No one knew that right now, Long Yu and Shu Chan were planning to kill everyone surrounding the Azura Holy Tree Valley. Inside the Azura Holy Tree Valley, Long Yu and Shu Chan were already standing on a branch of the Azura Holy Tree. This branch was the same as before. There were countless human faces on it, looking extremely terrifying. In the entire Azura Holy Tree Valley, there were tens of thousands of such branches. Each branch possessed a tyrannical combat strength. Even 7 Transcendent Realm powerhouses would only be able to take on one branch at a time. Against the encirclement of so many branches, even an Emperor Road Mystic Realm powerhouse would not have any good methods to deal with it. I didn't expect you to be able to completely control the Azura Holy Tree. Since that's the case, none of those people outside will be able to escape. Shu Chan stood on the Azura Holy Tree's branch. She could feel the Azura Holy Tree's tyrannical aura. She knew that this killing machine from the Azura Abyss would soon be stained with blood again. Shu Chan's eyes were filled with hatred. Due to the Azura King's death, she had lost her father. She did not have a good impression of those people surrounding the Azura Holy Tree Valley. Long Yu nodded. He was still immersed in the wondrous feeling of controlling the Azura Holy Tree. Relying on the Azura Source Stone, Long Yu's consciousness was connected to the Azura Holy Tree. He could clearly feel the murderous intent contained within the Azura Holy Tree. The Azura Holy Tree is, in fact, formed from one of the Azura envoy's innate mystic arts. The envoy of death's eerie and emotionless voice rang in Long Yu's ears once again. Long Yu knew that this fellow had indeed been hiding and following him. One of his mystic arts seeds has taken root and sprouted, forming this so-called Azura Holy Tree. The Holy Tree is filled with murderous intent. 2 Emperor Road Mystic Realm martial cultivators will not be able to stop it. However, if the Holy Tree slaughters for too long, it will become tired. It might even become exhausted. You must grasp this opportunity well. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. He nodded. When the battle started, he should be able to feel the Azura Holy Tree's exhaustion. He had to bring him and Shu Chan away from the Tianqin dynasty before the Azura Holy Tree lost its ability to fight. Chapter 6:23. The light yellow barrier that enveloped the entire Azura Holy Tree Valley quickly opened again. However, it wasn't the Scarlet Moon Valley Master, the Ghost Evil King, and the others who called for the Heavenly Star River to open it. Instead, it automatically opened from within the valley. This scene caused the eyes of the people surrounding the Azura Holy Tree Valley to light up. Look, those two brats are finally coming out. The Valley Master snorted, feeling quite pleased with himself. He thought that since Long Yu and Shu Chan ran into the Azura Holy Tree Valley, they definitely couldn't hide inside. Otherwise, they would definitely be slaughtered by the Azura Holy Tree. Everyone be on guard. In contrast to the Valley Master, the Ghost King was very vigilant. He squinted his eyes under his black robe and carefully observed the place where the yellow light barrier opened. He immediately noticed something unusual. The first thing that appeared in front of him wasn't either Long Yu or Shu Chan, but several terrifying branches of the Azura Holy Tree. The Azura Holy Tree has been released. Everyone be on guard. Attack! The Ghost King and the Azura King had been enemies for a long time. Of course, he had seen the power of the Azura Holy Tree. He had once been injured by the Azura Holy Tree and killed thousands of its subordinates. He knew how powerful this thing was. But now, the Ghost King didn't retreat. The Azura Holy Tree didn't have a mind of its own. If the Azura King was here, there was still some strategy. But if it was alone, it wouldn't be able to withstand the power of tens of thousands of martial cultivators. Originally, Emperor Tianqin wanted to forge the Azura Holy Tree into a weapon for himself. But now that the Azura Holy Tree had come out, the Ghost King couldn't care too much. He had to suppress it to prevent it from wreaking havoc in the entire Azure Mountain Valley. If that happened, not only him, but even Emperor Tianqin would suffer great losses. The tens of thousands of martial cultivators surrounding the Azura Holy Tree Valley, as long as they were in the Transcendent Realm, attacked the gap in the yellow light barrier. But this way, the entire scene became very chaotic. Many of the martial cultivators used their power of the Transcendent Realm, but before they could attack the Azura Holy Tree, they collided with each other and exploded. Those above the Divinity Realm, stop. The rest of you, continue to attack the Azura Sacred Tree. Be careful not to let the branches get close. As soon as the Ghost Evil King's voice fell, a few branches of the Azura Sacred Tree shot out from the light yellow light screen. In a split second, they swept out at an extremely fast speed, easily engulfing several Divine Ability Secret Realm Martial Practitioners and dozens of Celestial being Secret Realm Martial Practitioners. The power of the Azura Divine runes corroded the bodies of these martial cultivators, instantly killing them. The Azura Holy Tree's branches extended out and instantly killed dozens of people, causing the scene to become extremely chaotic. The other martial cultivators in the vicinity immediately scattered in all directions. They did not have any plans to deal with the Azura Holy Tree. The martial cultivators gathered. They were all martial cultivators from the Shura County, so they were very familiar with the Azura Holy Tree's fearsome name. Although this was the first time many of them had seen the Azura Holy Tree, they still subconsciously wanted to stay away from it. As the group of martial cultivators fled in all directions, the entire light yellow barrier above the Azura Holy Tree Valley seemed to melt bit by bit. Then, more and more branches of the Azura Holy Tree extended from within, slaughtering the martial cultivators that had gathered in all directions. The Ghost Evil King and the Red Moon Valley Master naturally knew that Long Yu and Shu Chan must have risked their lives to release the Azura Holy Tree. How stupid. In order to release the Azura Holy Tree and cause some losses for us, they lost their lives. The Scarlet Moon Valley Master thought of Shu Chan. That little girl's martial arts talent was extremely terrifying. In the future, she might even pose a significant threat to him. However, she had made such a sacrifice in order to release the Azura Holy Tree. She was far too stupid. Of course, he did not know that the Azura Holy Tree was currently controlled by Long Yu. Long Yu and Shu Chan were safe and sound in the depths of the Azura Holy Tree Valley. In order to prevent the Azura Holy Tree from wreaking havoc in the Azura Valley and causing more losses, the Ghost Evil King and the Red Moon Valley Master had to stop the Azura Holy Tree. This thing doesn't have a brain, so it's not hard to deal with. But it's not easy to kill it. The Red Moon Valley Master said in a low voice, "Ghost Evil King, you and I will work together to first cut off a portion of the branches to weaken its fighting strength. Then let the others attack and cut off all the branches." To deal with the Azura holy tree, cutting off its branches was a very effective method. Although the Azura holy tree could regrow its branches, it would consume a lot of its energy. This was something everyone knew. The Ghost Evil King nodded his head in agreement to this plan, but we need others to restrain it. With just the two of us, we won't be able to stop the Azura holy tree's all-out attack. The so-called restrain was to be used as cannon fodder to attract the Azura holy tree's attention, so that the two Emperor Road Mystic Realm Masters could take the chance to cut off the Azura holy tree's branches. Soon, over 100 martial cultivators responsible for restraining the Azura holy tree were chosen. These martial cultivators couldn't be too weak, otherwise they would be killed by the Azura holy tree in an instant. Of course, they couldn't be too strong either, otherwise the loss would be too great and the Ghost Evil King and the Red Moon Valley Master would feel heartache. Over 100 martial cultivators from the Red Moon Valley and Ghost Evil County, 3 and 4 Transcendent Realm martial cultivators followed the 2 Emperor Road Mystic Realm Masters and charged towards the Azura holy tree. As for the other martial cultivators, they all retreated like a swarm of bees. No one wanted to face the Azura holy tree, this terrifying thing. Kill! The Ghost Evil King and the Red Moon Valley Master attacked at the same time. The power of the Emperor Road Mystic Realm Masters was displayed in an instant. The power of the godly runes exploded and cut off several branches of the Azura holy tree. Among them, the Ghost Evil King had a dense, ghostly aura as he held the great desolate grayed black gold scythe in his hand. The Ghost Evil God rune's power coiled around it, looking gloomy and desolate. Every time he swung it, it would cut off an Azura sacred tree's branch, instantly clearing the sky for him. As for the Red Moon Valley Master, he waved his hand, and a flaming fan appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, endless flames would burn the Azura holy tree's branches into ashes. The hundreds of martial cultivators they led also used their own methods. In groups of 3 or 5, they started to clean up the Azura holy tree's branches, and the results were good. If the Azura holy tree ran out on its own, it wouldn't be long before too many of its branches were cut off, and it would consume too much of its energy. At that point, it would no longer have the strength to fight. But now, the Azura holy tree was being controlled by Long Yu. Seeing the Red Moon Valley Master and the Ghost Evil King joining hands to cut off the Azura holy tree's branches, Long Yu's lips curved upwards. This kind of situation was exactly what he wanted. If these two fellows chose to run away, Long Yu really couldn't do anything to them. But since they took the initiative to come and die, then they couldn't blame Long Yu. Azura holy tree, attack the Ghost Evil King with all your strength. Long Yu used the Azura Source Stone to give the order. Very quickly, the entire Azura holy tree began to move. All the branches began to gather towards the Ghost Evil King. If there was no one to command it, the Azura holy tree would only scatter its attacks. It would attack however many people there were. But now, Long Yu had gathered all his strength to attack the Ghost Evil King. If the Ghost Evil King didn't take some effective measures, it would definitely be killed by the Azura holy tree. The Ghost Evil King quickly discovered the Azura holy tree's actions, but he didn't think too much about it. After all, no one had ever been able to freely control the Azura holy tree, not even the Azura King. But very quickly, his expression changed. This was because he discovered that the Azura holy tree's branches were attacking him from all directions, completely ignoring the Red Moon Valley Master and the other martial cultivators who were just a few feet away. Chief Antion, burn these branches as fast as you can. It seems like someone is controlling them. The Ghost Evil King said with a pale expression. No need for you to say that. The Red Moon Valley Master also noticed that there were thousands of Azura holy tree branches rushing towards the Ghost Evil King. He immediately waved the flaming fan in his hand, trying to burn these Azura holy tree branches into ashes. And the subordinates that the two of them brought also attacked with all their strength, dealing with the Azura holy tree branches. It's about time. Holy tree, erupt. Long Yu narrowed his eyes as he saw this, finally giving the order. In the next moment, all the tens of thousands of Azura holy tree branches shot out at the same time, enveloping the Ghost Evil King. This sudden explosion caused the Ghost Evil King, the Scarlet Moon Valley Master Chief Fantion, and the others to be unable to react in time. The Azura branches that hid the sky and covered the earth came crashing down, enveloping the Ghost Evil King within. The people outside only saw the Ghost Evil King brandishing the black gold scythe at the fastest speed possible. Moreover, the Ghost Evil King himself also erupted with the most terrifying power of the Ghost Evil God runes. In an instant, he cut off thousands of Azura holy tree branches. However, in the next moment, he was submerged by tens of thousands of branches. Under the endless corrosion of the Azura holy tree branches, he lost all signs of life. Even someone as strong as the Ghost Evil King was killed in a single strike from the Azura holy tree branches, becoming the Azura holy tree's nourishment. After absorbing all of the Ghost Evil King's energy, the Azura holy tree had recovered more than half of the energy it used to regrow its branches. One had to know that the Ghost Evil King was an Emperor Road secret realm warrior, so the energy in his body was definitely not small. In the depths of the Azura holy tree valley, Long Yu obtained the grand desolate grade combat weapon, the black gold scythe. After playing with it for a while, he put it away. I didn't think it would be this easy to kill the Ghost Evil King. Next is Chi Fantion. Shu Chan stood beside Long Yu, watching Long Yu obtain the Ghost Evil King's black gold scythe. Her beautiful eyes flashed with admiration. She wasn't really looking forward to this mission, but Long Yu's performance had indeed opened her eyes. Controlling the Azura holy tree and instantly killing the Ghost Evil King, this was not something an ordinary person could do. Shu Chan didn't ask Long Yu what method he used to control the Azura holy tree. She only needed to know that Long Yu was on the same side as her. After killing the Ghost Evil King, Long Yu's gaze shifted to the Red Moon Valley Master, Chi Fantion. Chapter 624. Chi Fantian's expression changed as he faced the countless Azura branches that were rushing towards him like a raging tide. He waved the huge, flaming fan in his hand to its maximum extent. At the same time, fiery divine characters rose from his body and turned into a giant flaming bird, as if it wanted to incinerate the entire heaven and earth. The Azura branches that were the first to get close to him were all incinerated. The Azura divine characters and the fiery divine characters were evenly matched. Due to Chief Fantian's sudden outburst, the Azura branches were burnt one by one. Soon, thousands of Azura branches had been destroyed. However, the Azura's sacred tree's branches were simply too many. Even though Chief Fantion was fighting and retreating at the same time, he was still surrounded by countless Azura branches after burning thousands of Azura branches. The power of the Azura divine characters buried him completely. The two Emperor Road mystic realm experts have been dealt with. It's time to kill our way out. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Soon, the great desolate grade low-rank flaming fan combat weapon in Chi Fantian's hand landed in his hand. He put it away without studying it further. In Long Yu's eyes, there was no longer any need to study the great desolate grade low-rank combat weapon. He could give it to anyone after he returned. The fact that the flaming fan had landed in Long Yu's hand meant that Chi Fantion was dead. He had been devoured by the Azura sacred tree's endless Azura branches. Now that the two experts had been killed, Long Yu and Shu Chan would no longer hide in the Azura sacred tree's valley. In the next moment, the Azura sacred tree carried the two of them and charged out of the Azura valley. Of course, Long Yu still used the divine concealment technique to hide himself and Shu Chan in the endless Azura branches. In such a chaotic situation, Even if an Emperor Road Mystic Realm expert appeared, they would not be able to find traces of Long Yu and Shu Chan, let alone the remaining Divine Ability Mystic Realm and Heavenly Being Mystic Realm experts. In everyone's eyes, the Azura Holy Tree actually took the initiative to leave the Azura Holy Tree Valley and attack the people outside. The first to bear the brunt of the attack were the hundreds of Theurgy Mystic Realm martial cultivators that followed Chi Fantion and the Ghost Evil King. Because they were the closest when Chi Fantion was sucked into the Azura branch, these people quickly followed in the footsteps of Chi Fantion and the Ghost Evil King. The tens of thousands of martial cultivators that had surrounded the Azura Holy Tree Valley scattered in all directions at this moment. It had to be known that even Emperor Path Mystic Realm experts like Chi Fantion and Ghost Evil King had died. So how could the others deal with the Azura Holy Tree? Retreat, retreat quickly. Inform Emperor Tianqin as soon as possible that the Azura Sacred Tree has been released. A 7 Divine Realm Tianqin Dynasty cultivator gave the order anxiously. However, before he could even turn around, dozens of Azura branches wrapped around him and swallowed him whole. As the Azura Divine characters corroded his body, this person turned into a pool of blood. And on the Azura branch, another face that looked exactly like this person appeared, looking extremely eerie and terrifying. And this kind of scene continued to play out as the Azura Holy Tree left the valley and headed north. Under Long Yu's control, the Azura Holy Tree finally rose into the air and flew north at an extremely fast speed. Its destination, dark shadow demonic tracks. This scene shocked almost all the surrounding martial cultivators. The Azura Holy Tree could actually fly? This was the first time they had heard of it. Originally, the Azura Holy Tree's range was extremely wide, and the longest Azura branch was dozens of miles long. Even in battle, it had never left the Azura Holy Tree Valley. It had always been protecting the safety of the Azura Holy Tree Valley and had never left. But now, the Azura Holy Tree had actually risen into the air and was flying north. This is the descent of a miracle. The Tianqin dynasty's actions have angered the gods. That's why the Azura Holy Tree has such a phenomenon. Hurry up and follow it. Let's see where the Azura Holy Tree is flying to. Who knows? We might be able to pick up some benefits. Hurry up and inform the Tianqin Emperor. Whoever is the first to inform the Tianqin Emperor will definitely be rewarded handsomely. The Azura Mountain Valley was in complete chaos. As the Azura Holy Tree soared into the clouds, it continued to advance towards the north. Those martial cultivators who were still chasing after the Azura Holy Tree were all killed by Long Yu's Azura branches. If the Azura branch was fully extended, it would be more than 100 miles long. This was a huge object that covered the sky. When it flew across the sky, it was like a dark cloud had passed by, and the vast land below was completely shrouded in its shadow. Gather. Long Yu gave the order. Soon, all the branches of the Azura Holy Tree began to gather. Since they had to rush to the dark shadow demonic tracks as quickly as possible, they couldn't be too ostentatious. Although Long Yu had a good time controlling the Azura Holy Tree to kill the martial cultivators, he was very clear that the Azura Holy Tree only had 1/3 of its energy left. When he killed Chi Fantion and the King Ghost Evil, he had cut off thousands of its branches and burned them. This had a huge impact on the Azura Holy Tree, and it would be very difficult for it to recover in a short period of time. As for pulling the Azura Holy Tree out of the ground, that was not a difficult task. With the Azura Source Stone, Long Yu could easily do it. Finally, there is no one else around. We can be more reserved. Shu Chan released the Eye of the Azura and let the Eye of the Azura carefully survey their surroundings. Very quickly, she said to Long Yu, I will keep the Azura Holy Tree now. Long Yu nodded. He secretly activated the Azura Source Stone and directly stored the huge Azura Holy Tree in the independent space of the Azura Source Stone. Just like that, the two of them once again went into battle lightly and easily killed their way out of the Azura Valley. They even killed the Scarlet Moon Valley Master, Chief Fantion, and the King Ghost Evil. The two of them quickly headed north under the state of concealment. No one could catch up to them. 2 days later, the two of them finally reached the location of the demonic shadow tracks. However, after 2 days of nourishment, the Azura holy tree's energy had not recovered. It still had 1/3 of its energy left. At most, it could deal with one more Emperor Path Mystic Realm Martial Cultivator. This Azura holy tree is indeed very strong. My Divine Power Realm Martial Cultivator can use it to kill an Emperor Path Mystic Realm Martial Cultivator. It's a pity that the energy consumption is too fast. Long you felt slightly regretful. But on second thought, if this thing could kill an Emperor Path Mystic Realm Martial Cultivator without a trace of damage, then it would be too heaven-defying. Very quickly, the Shadow Mountains where the demonic shadow tracks were located appeared in front of the two of them. In the endless mountain range, dense demonic energy filled the forest. The ghostly energy from the Ghost Evil County had not yet spread to this far north. Of course, now that the King Ghost Evil County had died in the Azura Holy Tree, the ghostly energy in the Ghost Evil County would probably dissipate soon. After all, this ghostly energy was used by the martial cultivators in the Ghost Evil County. Since the Ghost Evil County was dead, then the original Azura County would definitely be taken over by other Emperor Path Mystic Realm Martial Cultivators. Other Emperor Path Mystic Realm Martial Cultivators, naturally, would not want such ghostly energy to exist in their own territories. Long Yu, Shu Chan, I knew you would come here. Just as the two of them flew into the Shadow Mountains filled with demonic energy, a shout came from the front. The voice was filled with endless anger, as if the two of them were the murderers of their father. Hearing this, Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. He and Shu Chan had used the divine concealment technique, but the other party was still able to sense their arrival. In the next moment, Long Yu raised his head and looked at the dense forest in the Shadow Mountains. He saw a large group of martial cultivators in scarlet robes rising from the forest and surrounding Long Yu and Shu Chan in the air. The one in the lead was the adopted son of the Scarlet Moon Valley Master, Chi Fantion, Chi Xiaofeng. He really is the murderer of his father. The corner of Long Yu's mouth curled up. He did not expect Chi Xiaofeng to be guarding them here. Moreover, Chi Xiaofeng was holding a mirror-like battle weapon in his hand. The battle weapon could clearly project Long Yu and Shu Chan's appearances. Obviously, Chi Xiaofeng was relying on the battle weapon to discover the two of them. Where did you hide the Azura sacred tree? Chi Xiaofeng snorted coldly when he saw Long Yu. Hand over the Azura sacred tree, and I'll let you die more easily. Otherwise, I'll make sure you suffer the pain of 1,000 cuts. A mere 7 divine realms cultivator dares to say such nonsense? What a joke. Shu Chan laughed softly. If you have the ability, then come and fight. Why are you still talking nonsense? Not to mention Chi Xiaofeng, who was in the 7 Daos divine power realm. Even an expert in the King's Road secret realm wouldn't be able to stop Long Yu and Shu Chan from advancing. As long as they could obtain the treasures in the secret treasury of the Dark Shadow Devil Track, the two of them will be able to quickly escape and leave the territory of the Tianqin dynasty. Since you refuse to repent, then go to hell, Chi Xiaofeng snorted coldly. Tian Yueha, I'll join forces with you to deal with that little girl. As for that Long Yu, I'll leave him to Brother Tian Xingha. No problem. An extremely hearty voice rang out. Then, a group of martial cultivators appeared from the crowd of Crimson Moon Valley disciples. It was the handsome young man in a black robe, Tian Xingha, and a cold-looking young man who looked similar to him. That cold-looking young man was actually the guy who tricked Long Yu into going to the Azura Sacred Tree Valley when he first came to the Azura Valley. Tian Yueha, he really isn't dead. Shu Chan's expression changed slightly. Most importantly, not only was Tian Yueha not dead, he was also an Emperor Path Mystic Realm expert. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Killing intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Since the other party was lying in ambush here, there might be other stronger forces hidden in the dark. He had to kill these people in front of him as fast as lightning. Since the other party had already taken the initiative to appear, Long Yu would not hesitate. Taking advantage of the fact that Tian Xinghe had just appeared and was about to say a few words, Long Yu brazenly activated the Azura Source Stone and released the Azura Sacred Tree. Against an Emperor Path Mystic Realm expert, the easiest way to kill them was to release the Azura Sacred Tree. But these people probably did not expect that the Azura Sacred Tree was like a weapon to Long Yu. He could release it at will. Chapter 625. The Azura Holy Tree expanded outwards, causing the hearts of the martial cultivators surrounding Long Yu and Shu Chan to tremble, and they hurriedly retreated. This included Tian Xinghe. He had wanted to say a few words to mock Shu Chan, but he did not expect Long Yu to release the Azura Sacred Tree to swallow them up. He quickly retreated. With the appearance of the Azura Sacred Tree, it was impossible for Tian Xinghe and the others to block it. Only Tian Xinghe, who had stepped into the Imperial Path Mystic Realm, remained in his original position. He carefully observed the Azura Sacred Tree that Long Yu had released and narrowed his eyes. This Azura Sacred Tree has killed 2 Imperial Path Mystic Realm cultivators. Now, its branches and tentacles are clearly much smaller. It probably won't be able to fight very well. Tian Xinghe said indifferently. Seniors from the Tianqing dynasty, can you appear now? Following his words, 2 Emperor Path Mystic Realm martial cultivators wearing long golden robes suddenly appeared from the dense forest below. One of them was fat, and the other was skinny. Their eyes were filled with disdain and pity for Long Yu. Do it. After this, I still have to go back and enjoy the ladies of the intoxicated flower brothel. The fat man chuckled. He did not put Long Yu in his eyes at all. He raised his hand, and a gust of wind divine characters flew out. It was the power of the elemental divine characters. Long Yu had never seen the wind divine characters before. When he saw them, he immediately became alert. As for Tian Xinghe, he had comprehended the Azura divine characters. Although Long Yu was prepared for this, he still found it strange. He did not know where Tian Xinghe had obtained the divine characters for him to comprehend. The other was a tall and skinny man from the Tianqing dynasty. He was dressed in a golden robe and had comprehended the ice divine text. The 3 Imperial Path Mystic Realm cultivators attacked together. The power of the divine characters surged out violently and actually overshadowed the might of the Azura Sacred Tree. Azura Sacred Tree, grow bigger and attack Sky Moon River with all your might. Killing intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Then, he issued an order through the Azura Source Stone. In the next instant, the Azura Holy Tree spread out. Close to 10,000 Azura branches bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they shot towards the sky in front of them, completely blocking out the sunlight. It was as if the entire sky was covered in dark clouds. Tian Yuehe bore the brunt of the attack. The corners of his mouth curled up, and a great desolate grade warrior sword appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, a few sword lights with Shura divine symbols darted out, cutting the nearby Shura branches in half. Tian Yuehe retreated as he fought, not daring to face the Azura holy tree's nearly 10,000 tentacles head-on. He had heard that even the Scarlet Moon Valley Master and the Ghost Evil King had died under the Azura Holy Tree, so of course he didn't dare to win. Anyway, with the 2 fellows from the Tianqing dynasty here, Sky Moon River was not afraid of not being able to deal with the Azura Holy Tree. Tian Xinghe, Tian Yuehe, both of you were once from the Azura Commandery. Tian Xinghe, you were my father's eldest disciple. Now, you're really going to make an enemy out of me? Shu Chan hid in the Azura Holy Tree and did not show herself, but her voice spread throughout the entire area. Now, if you and Tian Yuehe are willing to join forces with me to kill the people of the Tianqing dynasty, I will still treat you as my father's disciple. Shu Chan was persuading them to surrender. However, her persuasion sounded rather weak. When Tian Xinghe and Tian Yuehe heard this, they naturally refused. What future could they have by following the daughter of the Azura King, who was already dead. In the Tianqing dynasty, Tian Xinghe and Tian Yuehe could obtain more things, and it would be more beneficial to their martial arts realm. Tian Xinghe didn't respond. He led his subordinates and retreated into the distance. He didn't dare to fight the Azura holy tree head-on. As for Tian Yuehe, he used the sword in his hand to cut off the Azura branch tentacles one by one to show his determination. Since Shu Chan's persuasion had failed, there was no need for Long Yu to hold back. The Fat Man and Thin Man from the Tianqing dynasty both used the Wild Wind Divine Text and the Cold Ice Divine Text. They used the Wind Blades and Cold Ice Blades to cut off many Azura branches. However, to the Azura Holy Tree, this kind of damage was not dangerous. Khanate Mystique, Hand of the Nine Nether. Mystique, Eye of the Azura. Long Yu and Shu Chan used their techniques at almost the same time. Their target was surprisingly the same, the Fat Man from the Tianqing dynasty. The Wild Wind Divine Text was extremely powerful. It could condense wind blades. Even if the Fat Man did not use any mystique, he could easily cut off a dozen Azura branches. He was the greatest threat. The Hand of Nine Underworlds suddenly appeared from the Azura holy tree's branches. The Fat Man's lips curled up, and with a wave of his hand, a wind blade slashed towards the Hand of Nine Underworlds, easily slicing it into pieces. The power of the divine characters of Nine Underworlds exploded, but in the end, it did not affect the Fat Man from the Tianqing dynasty. After all, he was a powerhouse from the Imperial Mystic Realm. Long Yu's sneak attack was useless against him. But in the next moment, Shu Chan's Eye of Azura supernatural ability appeared, and as soon as it appeared, she opened her eyes and displayed the second stage of the Eye of Azura. The power of endless Azura divine runes surged towards the Fat Man. Too naive, the Fat Man did not use much strength to deal with the Hand of the Nine Nether. Now that he saw the Eye of the Azura trying to control his movements, he sneered. He urged the power of the Wild Wind Divine Text to cover his body, making him look like a tornado. Divine chains, wild wind roars to the nine heavens. The Fat Man shouted, and the Wild Wind Divine Text on his body suddenly stabbed out like blades. The wind blades condensed into chain-like shapes, howling and roaring as they flew in all directions, completely destroying the Eye of the Azura. Immediately after, the Wild Wind Divine Text formed by the divine chain swept towards the countless branches of the Azura holy tree, destroying them at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, thousands of branches were cut off by the Wild Wind Divine Chain. This is the power of a powerhouse. Long Yu's eyes lit up. The way the divine chain was used surprised him. Previously, when the Red Moon Valley Master and the Ghost Archdevil were killed, they did not have time to use the divine chain. But now, this Fat Man from the Imperial Mystic Realm must be prepared. Long Yu thought of the divine array that the Death Envoy used. That method was even stronger than the divine chain, but required a 9th level compatibility with the power of the divine text to be able to learn it. Right now, Long Yu's compatibility with the shadow element and life element was only at the 4th level. He was still very far from the divine array, but he was only a step away from the requirements to cultivate the divine chain. When the Fat Man used the divine chain, Long Yu immediately activated the Azura Source Stone, causing the Azura holy tree to retreat. The other party had already used a big move, so Long Yu naturally had to avoid it. A mere Azura holy tree is only SOS. Come, let's join forces and cut down this so-called holy tree. The Fat Man saw that he had easily forced back nearly 10,000 branches of the Azura holy tree, and he smiled proudly. Then he raised his hand, and the Wild Wind Divine Text appeared, continuing to chase after the retreating Azura holy tree. It was also at this time that the power of the Dream Divine Text began to spread in midair, silently spreading to the entire area. Because they were hidden in the dense Azura holy tree, the Fat and Thin Men from the Tianqing dynasty did not immediately discover it. By the time they discovered something strange, it was already too late. Shu Ruoxian's phantom appeared, and she lightly raised her hand. Thousands of dreamland stones spread out in all directions, forming a divine chain. Dreamland divine chain. Not only the fat and thin men from the Tianqing dynasty, but even the nearby Sky Moon River was also enveloped within. The power of the dream divine text spread out, corroding their minds, causing all three of them to fall into an illusion at the same time. Kill. Of course, Long Yu would not let go of this opportunity. He activated nearly 10,000 branches of the Azura holy tree and immediately attacked the tall and thin man who had comprehended the ice divine text. The power of the Azura divine text rapidly gathered, burying the tall and thin man. The fat man had already used the divine chain, so it would be easier to deal with him next. Thus, Long Yu chose to kill the tall and thin man first. Under the influence of Shu Ruoxian's Dreamland Divine Chain, the three Emperor Road Mystic Realm warriors had no ability to resist at all. Long Yu easily killed the tall and thin man with the help of the Azura Holy Tree. Following that, pitch-black branches covered the sky and covered the Sky Moon River, swallowing him in an instant. He was completely silent. In a situation where one had no ability to resist, the Azura Holy Tree's power could not be resisted at all. Nearly 10,000 branches gathered together, directly crushing anyone into meat paste and absorbing them as its nutrients. With two Emperor Road Mystic Realm warriors in its stomach, the Azura Holy Tree immediately became spirited. The sky-covering black branches instantly covered the tall and thin man, swallowing him in an instant. Three great desolate grade low-rank combat weapons fell into Long Yu's hands. It was a bountiful harvest, but the three Emperor Road Mystic Realm warriors died just like that. Qi Xiaofeng and the other Crimson Moon Valley disciples who were watching from afar were shocked. They immediately turned around and ran. Those were three Emperor Road Mystic Realm warriors. Their combined strength was enough to destroy heaven and earth. However, they were swallowed by the Azura Holy Tree under Long Yu's control, just like that. While it was hard to believe, it also scared the surrounding people. They no longer dared to stay in the same place, and they all ran away as fast as they could. Still want to run? Killing intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes. He controlled the Azura Holy Tree and charged towards the most important person, the adopted son of the Crimson Moon Valley Master, Qi Xiaofeng. Like a dark cloud, countless Azura branches arrived in the blink of an eye, wanting to swallow Qi Xiaofeng as well. This Qi Xiaofeng's talent was not weak. If he stayed, he would definitely become a great threat. Therefore, Long Yu would let anyone go but not him. Qi Xiaofeng saw the countless Azura branches flying towards him, and his eyes suddenly burned with passion. Even if you want me to die, I won't let you have it easy. In the next moment, Qi Xiaofeng's aura suddenly soared, and a burst of dense fire divine symbols condensed around him. It was as if he had been reborn, and his aura instantly increased by more than 10 times. He actually stepped into the Emperor Road Mystic Realm. Seeing this, Long Yu was momentarily stunned. He didn't expect Qi Xiaofeng to break through in the face of death. This was going to be troublesome. Inside the Dreamland Stone, Shu Ruoxian had used up all her energy to form the God Chains and dragged the three Emperor Road Mystic Realm warriors into her dreamland. She needed a rest for a long time to recover. Chapter 6:26. As soon as Long Yu saw that Qi Xiaofeng had actually stepped into the Imperial Road Mystic Realm, he immediately became vigilant. Shu-chan, be careful. Long Yu reminded her and immediately used the divine concealment technique, hiding his figure in midair. Only the Azura Holy Tree remained in everyone's field of vision, like a dark cloud blotting out the sun. Shu-chan, too, cautiously retreated. It was then that something happened that shocked the two of them. They saw that Qi Xiaofeng had just stepped into the Imperial Road Mystic Realm, but he did not feel the slightest bit of joy from advancing in the martial way. Instead, his face was filled with hatred, and his eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Not good. He's going to self-destruct. Shu Chan stared at the expression in Qi Xiaofeng's eyes and felt the power of the blazing divine characters condensing in Qi Xiaofeng's dantian, as if it was about to burst out of his body. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately activated the Azura Source Stone, ordering the Azura Holy Tree to shrink back in preparation for defense. Go to hell. Qi Xiaofeng didn't waste any time speaking nonsense. As soon as he stepped into the Imperial Road Mystic Realm, he chose to self-destruct. The boundless power of the fiery divine runes exploded before the Azura Holy Tree could completely retract its defenses. This caused Long Yu to be on guard, but at the same time, he also heaved a sigh of relief. This guy had stepped into the Imperial Road Mystic Realm. If they were to fight face-to-face, Long Yu might not be his opponent with the current Azura Holy Tree. However, this guy was afraid and chose to self-destruct. Perhaps from Qi Xiaofeng's point of view, since the three Imperial Road Mystic Realm experts were directly killed by the Azura Holy Tree, it was impossible for him to survive. What he did not know was that the three Imperial Road Mystic Realm experts were all sent into a dreamland by Shu Ruoxian, which was why the Azura Holy Tree succeeded. But now, Shu Ruoxian had exhausted the power of the Dreamland divine characters and had fallen into a dormant state. No matter what Qi Xiaofeng's mental journey was like, he had already self-destructed, and the power of an Emperor Path Mystic Realm expert self-destruction was something that Long Yu and Shu Chan had already witnessed. Previously, when Silver Mirror chose to self-destruct, he had stalled 5 Tianqin Dynasty's Emperor Path Mystic Realm experts and even seriously injured them. Now that Qi Xiaofeng had self-destructed at such a close distance, he posed a great threat to Long Yu and Shu Chan. The majority of the Azura sacred trees' countless branches were gathered together, blocking in front of Long Yu and Shu Chan. However, the power of the flame divine runes that had erupted from the explosion had instantly incinerated these branches. Azura Holy Tree, block it! A solemn look appeared in Long Yu's eyes. He activated the Azura Source Stone with all his might and ordered the Azura Holy Tree to block the destructive power of Qi Xiaofeng's self-destruction for him and Shu Chan. As long as the Azura Holy Tree seed was not destroyed, even if all its branches were incinerated, it could still regrow. However, if Long Yu and Shu Chan died, then they would really die. Comparing the two options, Long Yu naturally chose to let the Azura Holy Tree block the power of Qi Xiaofeng's self-destruction. The violent, divine characters spread out, seemingly burning the entire sky. Many Crimson Moon Valley martial cultivators did not manage to escape in time and were completely engulfed by the power of the explosion and burned to ashes. The Azura Holy Tree, which was like a dark cloud that blotted out the sun, was completely pulled back at this moment, forming a barrier of branches. The countless eerie faces on the branches were burned to ashes by the divine characters, and nearly 10,000 branches were completely destroyed by the power of the self-destruction. Unfortunately, the power of Qi Xiaofeng's self-destruction came to an end. In the end, it was unable to break through the Azura Holy Tree's defense and harm Long Yu and Shu Chan. It was also unable to burn the Azura Holy Tree's source, the Azura Seed. After a few breaths of time, the commotion died down. However, Long Yu and Shu Chan still had lingering fear in their hearts. Luckily, the Azura Holy Tree is strong enough. Otherwise, we would have lost our lives. Long Yu breathed a sigh of relief. He looked around and saw that the entire Azura Holy Tree had been burned to ashes. Only a few hundred lonely branches were left, protecting Long Yu, Shu Chan, and its source seed. The Azura Holy Tree no longer has any combat power. We have to quickly deal with it and retreat. Otherwise, it'll be too dangerous, Shu Chan said softly. And let's go. Long Yu nodded. He glanced at the place where Qi Xiaofeng had self-destructed. There was nothing there anymore. A young martial cultivator with tyrannical talent had died here because he had misjudged the situation. If Qi Xiaofeng had chosen to escape, Long Yu and Shu Chan wouldn't have been able to stop him. After all, he had already stepped into the Emperor Path Mystic Realm. However, Long Yu didn't have the time to feel pity for Qi Xiaofeng. He stored the Azura holy tree into the independent space of the Azura source stone. Then, he used the divine concealment technique and brought Shu Chan with him towards the location of the demonic shadow track's secret treasury. Along the way, Long Yu knew that he had to be careful. Since the other party had chosen to ambush him here, it was possible that they knew his and Shu Chan's destination. Following the death of Sky Moon River and the two Emperor Path mystic realm martial cultivators from the Tianqing dynasty, all the martial cultivators surrounding Long Yu scattered in all directions. In the end, Qi Xiaofeng self-destructed and killed a large number of them. The rest had long since scattered like birds and beasts. Without the Emperor Path mystic realm martial cultivators as their backbone, they didn't dare to cause trouble for Long Yu and Shu Chan. Even though many of them had seen that the Azura holy tree had been destroyed by Qi Xiaofeng's self-destruction, they weren't sure if Long Yu and Shu Chan had any other tricks up their sleeves. Therefore, everyone scattered in all directions. No one had any ideas about attacking Long Yu and Shu Chan. Although they knew that if they captured Long Yu and Shu Chan, they would definitely receive many reward from the Tianqing Emperor, they needed to be alive to enjoy these rewards. Only then would they truly be able to get their hands on them. With the Emperor Path mystic realm martial cultivators taking the lead, they were willing to join in the fun. But now that they had lost their backbone, none of them would joke around with their lives. Long Yu and Shu Chan flew in the direction of the dark shadow demonic tracks very soon. They heard the sounds of fighting coming from below. They couldn't help but look at each other. "Let's go down and take a look," Long Yu suggested. "This place is closer to the dark shadow demonic tracks. There might be disciples of the dark shadow demonic tracks here." Shu Chan nodded. Previously, there was a disciple of the dark shadow demonic tracks, Mo Yuan, who had carried on the will of the Dark Shadow King, and told the two of them about the Dark Shadow demonic tracks treasury and a method to control the Azura holy tree. From the looks of it, the accuracy of this information was still up for debate. But it was undeniable that there were indeed many disciples of the Dark Shadow demonic tracks hiding in the dark, attempting to take revenge on the Tianqing dynasty's martial cultivators. Under the state of divine concealment, the two of them landed in the dense forest below. At a glance, they saw a group of familiar faces. It's Tianqing and his subordinates. Long Yu's eyes lit up. 5 Transcendent Realm Tianqing and his 4 Transcendent Realm subordinates, a total of 5 people, were currently besieging a tall and sturdy figure in black robes. Tianqing, Yu Luo, Yu Guisha, Gui Yin, Li Peos. They are all Tianqing's trusted subordinates. Each of them is an expert. Shu Chan's eyes also lit up. She didn't expect to encounter Tianqing, who had taken the opportunity to escape just now. If there was a chance, she would definitely kill him. A talented youth like Tianqing was quite a threat to Long Yu and Shu Chan. If they could kill one, it would be one. If they could kill a pair, it would be a pair. When the two of them clearly saw the person being besieged by Tianqing's group, they were even more determined to launch a sneak attack. The black-robed youth besieged by Tianqing's group was actually Man Xin. Man Xin had previously followed Long Yu and Yu Hanqin to the nearby Storm Demonic Saber ruins. He had chosen to explore the ruins by himself. Since then, there had been no news of him. Who would have thought that he would actually appear here and be besieged by Tianqing's group? Let's finish this quickly. Long Yu and Shu Chan are probably not far away. If we wait for them to arrive, we won't have a chance anymore. Tianqing shouted. His 4 subordinates immediately responded. Each of them used their strongest innate mystic abilities and attacked Man Xin. Man Xin was having a hard time facing the 5 of them. When they parted ways, Man Xin was only a celestial realm cultivator. But now, he had already stepped into the transcendent realm. Although it was only a transcendent realm, his improvement was still godly, not any slower than Long Yu's. Of course, even with the transcendent realm cultivation, he was still losing ground against 5 experts from Tianqing's group. The gap between their cultivation realms was just too huge. The only reason why Man Xin could still hold on was because of the storm demonic saber in his hand. This storm demonic saber is even stronger than Emperor Tianqing's golden royal bell. I'm afraid it's a supreme, desolate grade combat weapon. Long Yu's eyes lit up. He didn't expect Man Xin to have improved so much after his trip to the ruins. Even the grade of the combat weapon in his hand had increased. The supreme, desolate grade combat weapon, or even the supreme demonic saber, had a significant effect on Man Xion's strength. The reason why Tianqing and his group attacked Man Xin was to obtain the Storm Demonic Saber, Transcendent Ability, 3 Saber of Destruction. Man Xion let out a loud roar as Tianqing and his group closed in on him. The Storm Demonic Saber in his hand was instantly surrounded by dense demonic chi. The terrifying power of demonic chi and divine runes condensed into a huge saber chi, slashing at the 5 block. Even though Tianqing and his group's cultivation realms were much higher than Man Xion's, their faces still paled when they saw the attack. They quickly executed their defensive skills to defend themselves. 1 saber, 2 saber, 3 saber. 3 huge saber lights pressed down on the 5 people. Each saber was more powerful than the last, and its destructive power was extremely shocking. However, to the 5 people, even the strongest 3rd saber didn't have the ability to kill them. Now's the time, kill him. When Man Xion finished his 3 saber attacks, Tianqing's eyes flashed with killing intent. The lower desolate grade combat weapon, Stardust World, flew out, and his 4 subordinates also unleashed their strongest innate abilities, trying to kill Man Xion. However, the corners of Man Xion's mouth curled up at this moment. You believe me when I say 3 saber attacks? How naive. In the next second, the storm demonic saber in Man Xion's hand went berserk. Endless demonic chi formed into a whirlwind, and another huge saber light was formed. The strength of the demonic chi in this saber light was at least 10 times stronger than the 3rd saber attack. This saber attack was his real trump card, and he had to use it when his opponents were unprepared. Only then would he be able to kill them. After all, his opponents were martial geniuses who were a few levels stronger than him. Although Man Xion didn't care about his life when fighting, he wasn't stupid. Chapter 6:27. Long Yu and Shu Chan were hiding nearby, ready to strike at the most opportune moment. They were pleasantly surprised to see Man Xion pull off such a trick. This kid isn't stupid after all. Long Yu chuckled, and Shu Chan nodded in agreement. She was quite impressed with Man Xion's performance. Man Xion should be proud of himself for being able to fight against Tianqing's group of 4 for so long. One should know that there were only a few martial cultivators in the same transcendent realm that could do this. Even Long Yu found it difficult to do so. Man Xion's 4th slash was unleashed. The demonic chi saber ray condensed into a massive demonic chi whirlwind that swept towards Tianqing's group of 5. The entire forest was shrouded in darkness. Tianqing's group of 5 originally wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Man Xion. However, when they saw Man Xion's 4th slash, they were all taken aback. Immediately afterwards, they each unleashed their own defensive measures. The power of various divine runes surged out, easily blocking Man Xion's wide-range attack. When they turned their attention to the front again, they discovered that Man Xion had already disappeared. This person's combat weapon is definitely above Great Desolate grade upper grade. We must get it. Chase after him. Tianqing ordered with a solemn face. One of his subordinates, Li Peo's, who had comprehended the power of spatial divine runes, immediately gathered the power of the divine runes and executed an innate mystique. Then, he disappeared from the spot. It seemed like he was chasing after Man Xion. Tianqing and his remaining 3 subordinates were just about to chase after them when several attacks suddenly appeared from all directions and blasted towards the 4 of them. Primordial Shadow. Nether Dragon 9 Explosions. Kill. Long Yu made his move. With one of his opponents gone, the rest of them were focused on Man Xion's stormy demonic saber. This was the best opportunity for him to launch a sneak attack. 8 illusory dragons of the 9 Nether emerged from the forest and roared. 4 Dragonheart Edicts instantly struck Tian Xinghe's group, causing their hearts to skip a beat. When they circulated their Xianxi to resist the Dragonheart Edicts, the Sky Tremor Explosion and Rapid Explosion exploded one after another. The power of the 9 Nether Divine runes engulfed them. Of course, Long Yu knew that it would be impossible for him to deal with Tian Xinghe and the other 3 with just this desolate grade martial skill, even if he had cultivated it to the transformation stage. After all, their martial Dao realms were much higher than his. However, Long Yu's role in this battle was only to be a support. The real trump card was Shu Chan, Ancient Martial Skill, 9 Netherlight. When the sky-shaking explosion and rapid chain explosion rang out, Long Yu used the 9 Underworld Heavenly Light martial skill in the next instant. The power of the pitch-black 9 Underworld Divine characters instantly spread throughout the entire forest, and he himself was hidden within the 9 Underworld Heavenly Light. When the pitch-black power of the 9 Nether Divine runes engulfed Tian Xinghe's group, their expressions changed, especially Yu Sun Luo, Yu Guisha, and Gue Yin. They felt like they were not facing an opponent at the Divine Realm, but a martial cultivator that was on the same level as them. Don't be afraid. That Long Yu did not use the Azura Sacred Tree. It seems that the Azura Sacred Tree was indeed destroyed by Qi Xiaofeng's self-destruction. Tian Xinghe was extremely calm. He raised his hand, and the great desolate grade low-tier combat weapon, Stardust, flew out. The power of the star, divine runes, suddenly exploded and dispersed the pitch-black 9 Netherlight. However, at this moment, Shu Chan made her move. Azura Absolute Light. Shu Chan shouted, and a terrifyingly powerful pitch-black Azura divine runes shot into the 9 Netherlight, hitting the 4 divine realm martial cultivators that were resisting the 9 Netherlight with all their strength. Yu Guisha. This beautiful martial cultivator had once fought against Long Yu in the dreamland of the Azura selection, but she was killed by Long Yu in the dreamland. Originally, Yu Guisha did not put Long Yu in her eyes. She felt that if she had not suppressed her martial realm to the human initial realm and the same level as Long Yu, there was no way she would lose to Long Yu. But now, she knew that she was gravely mistaken. Just the 9 Underworld Heavenly Light that Long Yu had displayed would be able to completely annihilate her sooner or later if he were to continue trapping her within it. Furthermore, now that Shu Chan had made her move, she was the first target. Yu Guisha could have dodged the Azura Absolute Light, but in Long Yu's 9 Netherlight, not only had her senses been weakened to an extremely low level, but her movements were also extremely inconvenient. When she realized that the Azura Absolute Light was coming for her, she wanted to dodge it, but it was already too late. A mournful scream came from Yu Gisha's mouth. Then, the enchanting beauty was annihilated by the endless 9 Nether Divine runes and Azura Divine runes. I have Azura. In the next moment, killing intent flashed in Shu Chan's eyes. Among these people, the one she hated the most was naturally Tian Xinghe. This person was the eldest disciple of her father, the Azura King. However, this person had sided with Emperor Tianqin, the person who had killed the Azura King. As the saying went, a teacher for a day was a father for life. Tian Xinghe's actions were the same as acknowledging a traitor as his father. As the Azura King's daughter, since Shu Chan had seen this, she would not let Tian Xinghe go. The eye of Azura's pupils opened, emitting an extremely fierce Azura divine rune power. It firmly imprisoned Tian Xinghe, who had been enveloped by the 9 Netherlight, in place, making it impossible for him to move. This caused Tian Xinghe's expression to change, but he did not panic. His eyes flashed, and the power of the star divine runes circulated around his body. In a situation where he was imprisoned by the Eye of Azura, this person was still able to circulate the power of the Star Divine runes. It was clear that he was not an ordinary person. Magic power, Star River Revolution. In the next moment, Tian Xinghe executed his innate mystic art. He had never executed this innate mystic art before because it was an escape technique. In the past, he didn't need to escape for his life. Once Star River Revolution was used, the endless power of the Star Divine runes wrapped around Tian Xinghe's body, even annihilating the 9 nether light around him. Then, Tian Xinghe's body disappeared with his schwa, leaving behind his desolate grade weapon, Stardust Huan, laughing lightly. Hee bye-bye everyone. With these words, Tian Xinghe actually abandoned Yusun Luo and Ghost Eye, escaping without a trace. How cunning, but let's kill his subordinates first. A look of disappointment flashed in Shu Chan's eyes. To her, killing more people like Yusun Luo and Yu Guisha would not be enough to vent her anger. She did not expect that Tian Xinghe guy to escape. In this way, it would not be easy to catch Tian Xinghe. After all, she and Long Yu could not stay in the Tianqin dynasty's territory for long. But even if Tian Xinghe escaped, Yusun Luo and Ghost I would not be able to escape. Long Yu continued to maintain the 9 nether light, and Yusun Luo and Ghost I were already struggling to resist. Seeing that Tian Xinghe had escaped, Ghost Eye knew that the situation was not right. Ghost Eye directly took off his blindfold. Originally, only one of Ghost Eye's eyes was exposed. Now that the eye patch was taken off, the other eye that appeared was actually condensing dense ghost chi. This ghost chi was released with a loud bang, and it actually had the tendency to disperse the 9 nether heavenly light. If it was ghost energy that was not strong enough, it would definitely be restrained by the power of the 9 nether divine runes. But at this moment, Ghost Eye was able to disperse the 9 nether light. It could be seen that the power contained his hidden Ghost Eye was extremely tyrannical, far exceeding the level of his 4 divine powers. Ghost Eye, upon seeing this, the corners of Shu Chan's mouth curled up in interest. She had long heard of the Ghost Eye. Now that she saw it, it truly lived up to its reputation. After the Ghost Eye's blindfold was removed, the ghostly aura that gushed out had actually reached the level of a 7 divine ability stage expert. Therefore, even Long Yu's 9 nether heavenly light was dispersed. But for Shu Chan, it was impossible for him to escape from her hands with just this little bit of ability. After all, Ghost Eye only had a 4 divine powers cultivation. Even if he relied on that Ghost Eye to obtain the power of a 7 divine powers realm powerhouse, it was absolutely impossible for him to last long. Otherwise, why would he be so secretive and expose his Ghost Eye in front of others? Divine powers, Azura explosion. Without hesitation, Shu Chan displayed another innate divine power, Azura explosion. It condensed the power of all the Azura divine runes in her body and launched a terrifying explosion at the target. Because this move would consume all the power of her Azura divine runes, she was usually very cautious when using it. But at this time, in order to eliminate the opponent who had exposed his Ghost Eye as quickly as possible, she could only use this move. The power of the Azura divine runes rapidly gathered around Ghost Eye, and in an instant, it exploded. Before Ghost Eye could react, the endless and violent Azura divine runes had already enveloped him. Ghost God's power, break for me. Ghost Eye roared, urging all the rich ghost energy in his Ghost Eye to break through the exploding Azura divine runes. However, he discovered that he couldn't do it at all. Even the power of a 7 divine powers realm powerhouse couldn't resist the power of Shu Chan's Azura explosion. In the next moment, the destructive power of the Azura divine runes exploded. Even Long Yu's 9 nether light couldn't resist, and a large part of it was directly dispersed. But at the same time, Ghost Eye, who had taken off his blindfold, was also annihilated by the Azura explosion. Not even ashes were left behind. Amazing! Long Yu, who was hidden in the 9 nether light, laughed out loud. He didn't expect Shu Chan to have such strength. The Azura explosion's innate divine ability had already been cultivated to the fifth layered heaven. Even Ghost Eye, who had displayed the strength of a 7 divine powers realm powerhouse, was instantly killed. Although Ghost Eye has the strength of a 7 divine powers realm powerhouse, he only has the cultivation of a 4 divine powers realm powerhouse. The difference between the two is still very large. If he were to face a true 7 divine powers realm powerhouse, the Azura explosion definitely wouldn't be able to instantly kill him. Shu Chan said modestly, but this was also the truth. Ghost Eye had the power of a 7 divine powers realm powerhouse, but he didn't know how to use it, nor did he comprehend it into a divine ability or use it in a martial skill. Of course, the pure power of the divine powers couldn't resist Shu Chan's innate divine abilities. With Ghost Eye dead, there was nothing left to say about the remaining 4 divine powers realm Yusinluo. Chapter 628. With the death of Gui Yin, only a pale-faced youth, Yusinluo, remained. He wore a black robe, and his white eyes were filled with fear. He had used most of his strength to resist Long Yu's 9 underworld heavenly light. If Shu Chan had attacked him, he would not have been able to withstand it. Even with only the 9 underworld heavenly light, Yusinluo would not have lasted for long. After pondering for a moment, the skinny youth, Yusinluo, spoke. "The two of you, please stop. Yusinluo, surrender. Surrender requires sincerity." Long Yu smiled faintly. He was not the least bit confused by the other party's words. "I can help you chase after Heavenly Xinghe," Yusinluo quickly expressed. "That's good. Then tell me, where is Heavenly Xinghe now?" Long Yu asked with a chuckle. His innate spiritual ability, Star River Circulation, can only allow him to move within 100 miles. I can use my eyes of Sinluo to track him through the traces he left behind, Sinluo explained. However, before he could finish speaking, a pitch-black blade suddenly appeared from the 9 underworld heavenly light behind him and stabbed into his back, shattering his heart meridian. Long Yu appeared behind Yusinluo. After his attack succeeded, he quickly retreated. Sure enough, Yusinluo's Sinluo divine runes erupted in the next moment. He actually chose to self-destruct before he lost consciousness. Of course, this self-destruction was not complete. Because his heart meridian had been pierced, he did not have much time left. He did not have the time to gather all his strength into his dantian. Dragon Sparrow Flash. Long Yu directly used this martial technique. Yusinluo's self-destruction, which was not very powerful, did not injure him at all. Instead, it completely dispersed the 9 underworld heavenly light that he released. Of course, apart from Heavenly Xinghe, everyone else was already dead. There was no need to continue maintaining the 9 underworld heavenly light. Long Yu had no interest in chasing after Heavenly Xinghe, so he directly killed Yusinluo. Even if what Yusinluo said was true, it was very likely that they would encounter other dangers in the process of chasing after the Heavenly Starry River. And now, Long Yu and Shu Chan had used up most of their trump cards. The Azura, Holy Tree, and the Dreamland Stone had already used up all their energy and could no longer fight. Under such circumstances, Long Yu did not want to cause any trouble and put himself in danger. As for the escaping Tian Xinghe, he would have the chance to deal with him sooner or later. However, now was not the time. "Let's go find Man Xian." Long Yu nodded to Shu Chan, and the two of them sped towards the direction where the violent demonic chi was coming from. Soon, they saw Man Xian, who was locked in a fierce battle with Heavenly Galaxy's subordinate, Li Peos. Man Xian had relied on some means to escape from the encirclement of Heavenly Galaxy and the others. It was not easy to do this, but what was even more difficult was that Man Xian, who was relying on the superior Desolate grade or even top grade Stormy Demonic Saber, was able to fight to a draw with Li Peos, who had 4 transcendent realms. This was almost the same combat strength as Long Yu. It seemed that the quality of the stormy demonic saber was not low. It was no wonder that Heavenly Galaxy wanted to snatch it. Unfortunately, he encountered Long Yu and Shu Chan and almost lost his life. Of course, although Man Xian and Li Peo's were fighting to a draw, his body was still full of wounds. Based on Man Xian's desperate fighting style, it would not be considered a battle if there were no wounds on his body. Li Peo's, on the other hand, could easily dodge Man Xian's saber light by relying on his comprehension of the Space Divine Rune. He even condensed a space blade to attack Man Xian with ease. He was alone and did not use his full strength. Naturally, he wanted to wait for Heavenly Galaxy and the others to arrive. Unfortunately, he was disappointed. Heavenly Galaxy and the others did not arrive. Instead, Long Yu and Shu Chan quietly appeared. Hand of 9 Nether. Long Yu suddenly appeared, and a skeletal hand of 9 Nether reached out from the void, grabbing Li Peo's entire body. The 9 Nether Chi instantly eroded the defenseless Li Peo's body. This caused the tall, thin man to feel a chill in his heart. He immediately wanted to use his transcendent realms to escape. Unfortunately, under the corrosion of the 9 Nether Divine Rune, the speed at which he condensed the Space Divine Rune slowed down by 80%. Before he could use his instant movement technique, Shu Chan's primordial Azura compass had already arrived. Countless pitch-black Azura beams pierced through Li Peo's chest, causing his eyes to widen and his heart to stop beating. No matter what, Li Peo's was only a martial cultivator at the 4 Daos Transcendent Realm. There was no way he could withstand Shu Chan's attack. Long Yu and Shu Chan appeared side by side in the dense forest, arriving in front of Man Xian. Haha, it really is you. Man Xian immediately burst into laughter when he saw the two of them. Coughing from his injuries, he stared at Long Yu with a sharp glint in his eyes. Brother Long, when I saw so many people surrounding the Azura sacred tree, I knew that it was you and the county lord who had appeared. That's why I came here. I didn't expect that I wouldn't be able to meet you first. Instead, I bumped into Heavenly Galaxy's group. Take this. Long Yu did not ask about Man Xian's injuries. In any case, no matter what kind of injury it was, the heaven grade pills of the High Clouds Empire could easily heal it. Man Xian did not ask any questions and directly swallowed the pill that Long Yu handed to him. Immediately, he felt refreshed and was rather surprised. The effects of a heaven grade pill are actually so good. It's much better than the ones I've taken before. Of course, this is a high-grade pill that can't be found in the entire Tianqin dynasty. It was taken from the martial cultivators of the High Clouds Empire. Following that, Long Yu, Shu Chan, and Man Xian moved forward while recounting what had happened in the Roshui commandery of the North Snow Empire. 3 sons of the great emperors of the empire. After hearing Long Yu's words, Man Xian was immediately shocked. The empire was an existence that even the Tianqin dynasty did not dare to provoke. He did not expect that Long Yu and Shu Chan had actually offended such a force and even killed the pursuers of the High Clouds Empire. Of course, for Man Xian, the fact that the great emperors dared to have designs on Shu Chan was simply courting death. If he was with Long Yu at that time, he would also have made the same decision as Long Yu. So, you came to the Shadow Mountains for the demonic Shadow Trace treasury. Soon, Man Xian knew the purpose of the two, and of course, he decided to go with them. He also roughly told them what he had experienced after entering the ruins of the Storm Demonic Blade. He followed Yuhan Xin and Long Yu all the way to the northern part of the Shura Commandery and arrived at the ruins of the Storm Demonic Blade that Emo Zhaitian had told him about. In the ruins, he experienced one battle after another. At the beginning, the opponents that appeared were martial cultivators who were at the same level as him, but every time he won a battle, the martial cultivators that appeared in front of him would be a bit stronger. At the same time, as long as Man Xian won a battle, he would get some pills for cultivation. After taking them, he could improve his martial cultivation, and at the same time, the quality of the Storm Demonic Blade would also improve. The ruins of the Storm Demonic Blade were completely a test and inheritance for the owner of the Storm Demonic Blade. Because of this, After Man Xin completed all the tests and inheritance and left the ruins, he could have the cultivation of the divine secret realm and the storm demonic blade, which had been upgraded to a great desolation level transcendent grade combat weapon. However, this was not the end of the storm demonic blade. From the ruins, Man Xin learned that the ruins were a stronghold left behind by an ancient devil sect. If he could find the ruins of the ancient devil sect, his storm demonic blade would be able to improve further. Although Man Xin had mastered the innate divine ability, the 7 demonic blades, he could only use the first 4 blades. Even so, this divine ability was already extremely powerful, and even Tian Xinghe and his 4 subordinates had to use all their strength to defend against it. One could imagine how powerful Man Xin would be if he could master the innate divine ability to a higher level. From the ruins of the Storm Demonic Blade, Man Xin had also obtained the cultivation method of a Great Desolation level martial skill. However, he had not started to practice it yet, because he had just come out from the ruins when he heard about Long Yu and Shu Chan causing a ruckus in the Shura Valley. Thus, he hurried in that direction. Although the two parties had exchanged many things, they had all been exchanged as they moved forward. They did not waste any time at all, because the 3 of them knew that there was no time for them to waste. Experts could come after them at any time, and they had to leave this place as soon as possible. Putting aside everything else, if any martial cultivator from the Emperor Path's secret realm came after them, Long Yu and Shu Chan would not be able to deal with them. Fortunately, the treasury of the demonic shadow track was not far from them. Not long after, the 3 of them arrived at the top of a bottomless abyss. The demonic shadow track was built on both sides of the abyss. The architectural style was eerie and treacherous. Gusts of chilly wind blew from the abyss, and the surrounding demonic chi was extremely dense. This was the location of the original number 1 sect in Shura Prefecture, the demonic shadow track. Unfortunately, the demonic shadow track sect was extremely dilapidated. After the invasion of the Tianqing dynasty's martial cultivators, all the buildings and facilities in the demonic shadow track had been destroyed. The area within a few hundred miles had become a wasteland with almost no living creatures. If there were people, only the remaining disciples of the demonic shadow track and the team sent by the Tianqing dynasty to search for the remaining members of the demonic shadow track would pass by here. When the 3 of them arrived at the top of the abyss, several black figures suddenly jumped out from the ruins of the demonic shadow track's buildings on both sides of the abyss. All of them were wearing black robes and moved extremely quickly. These were the remaining disciples of the demonic shadow track, but it was obvious that they had no ill intentions towards Long Yu and the others. Otherwise, they would not have taken the initiative to reveal themselves. One should know that the disciples of the demonic shadow track were extremely good at hiding. For example, if Mo Zhaiyan wanted to hide, even Long Yu and Shu Chan would not be able to find him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After a few leaps, the 7 black figures arrived beside Long Yu and the others. One of them was the disciple of the demonic shadow track, Mo Yuan, who had seen Long Yu and Shu Chan before. "Princess, you're finally here." Mo Yuan's gloomy and hoarse voice sounded. He then raised his hand and pointed to the depths of the abyss. "Follow me. This is the treasury of the Dark Shadow King. Only those who have comprehended the Azura divine script can open it. Lead the way." Chapter 629. The abyss was filled with the power of the Dark Shadow divine characters. Black fog spread everywhere, making it impossible to see one's fingers. Mo Yuan was a martial cultivator at the 7 Paths Divinity Realm, and the other disciples of the Dark Shadow Trace were also at the 4 Paths Divinity Realm, as expected of the number 1 sect in Shura County. Even though the sect had been destroyed, there were still so many experts operating in the dark. "The treasury is here. Princess, we'll leave it to you. We'll take our leave first." Very quickly, Mo Yuan and the others brought Long Yu's group to the entrance of a cave over 1,000 zhang away from the cliff. Mo Yuan then spoke respectfully to the three of them. "Aren't you going in with me?" Shu Chan asked in surprise. "No, the Dark Shadow King said that the treasury belongs to you from now on." And Mo Yuan said in a deep voice, "As for us disciples of the Dark Shadow Track, we'll keep fighting on this land until we all die. But we'll at least bring 10 times more damage to the Tianqin dynasty." "I thought you were going to follow me to the North Snow dynasty." Shu Chan was rather disappointed. "Princess, we have limited talent. There's not much room for us to improve at this stage, but you're different," Mo Yuan said seriously. Mo Yuan said seriously. "There's also our Dark Shadow King's chief disciple, Mo Zhaitian. With his talent, he's most likely to surpass the Dark Shadow King in the future and become an existence comparable to Emperor Tianqin. At that time, he'll definitely avenge us." Hearing this, Long Yu realized that Mo Yuan and the others thought that Mo Zhaitian was the most talented, even more so than the princess. If it wasn't for the fact that Mo Zhaitian and Shu Chan were developing together in the North Snow dynasty, Mo Yuan probably wouldn't have been willing to give the treasury to Shu Chan. Of course, Long Yu was still vigilant in his heart, in case this devil abyss was a disguise to frame them. However, Long Yu didn't sense any killing intent from the disciples of the Dark Shadow Track, so he was much more relieved. Long Yu's greatest advantage over the martial cultivators of this world wasn't in his martial techniques or the inheritance of the Dragon of 9 Underworlds, but in his ability to sense killing intent after so many life and death experiences. This ability had helped him countless times since he stepped onto the path of martial arts. After Mo Yuan finished speaking, he led the disciples of the Dark Shadow Trace and flew towards the top of the cliff. Soon, they disappeared. "They have indeed left, don't worry." Just as Shu Chan looked at Long Yu and was slightly hesitant, the faint voice of the Death Envoy, who had been following Long Yu, rang in his ear. Although the Death Envoy would not appear to help Long Yu in battle, there was no problem in reminding him in other aspects. Originally, Long Yu was still a little nervous in his heart. Although he did not feel any killing intent, there might be some kind of trap hidden in this cave. Now that the Death Envoy said so, there was no problem. The disciples of the Dark Shadow Trace were extremely good at hiding themselves, especially the 7 transcendent realm powerhouses. When they hid themselves, it was impossible for Long Yu and Shu Chan to discover them. Therefore, if there was some kind of trap in this cave, the 7 transcendent realm Mo Yuan would definitely not leave so easily. No matter what, he would have to watch Long Yu's group of 3 step into the cave. Mo Yuan and the other disciples of the Dark Shadow Trace didn't know that a terrifying existence like the Death Envoy was following Long Yu and could clearly see their whereabouts. Shu Chan used the power of the Azura divine runes to open a stone door in the cave, and the first treasure room appeared. In this treasure room, there were many heaven-grade weapons and heaven-grade pills. There were even some great desolate-grade pills, but there weren't many of them. There wasn't anything too precious in the treasury, but for the development of a force, so many resources were extremely important. Just those elixirs alone were enough for at least 100 people to advance a level in a martial way in a month. Of course, this was excluding the factor that the martial cultivators were unable to advance due to their lack of talent. However, with so many resources, it was enough. Among them, there were also more than 100 heaven-grade weapons. There were lower grade, middle grade, and upper grade, enough to equip a team of 100 people and give them all heaven-grade weapons. At the level of the Tianqin dynasty and the North Snow dynasty, heaven-grade weapons were nothing, but for the Heavenly Mandate Manor and the Azure Mansion, even heaven-grade weapons were very precious. Having these heaven-grade weapons was better than not having any at all. They were powerful weapons that were second only to the great desolate grade weapons. For ordinary martial cultivators, they were of great significance. I can still continue to open the second room. Soon, Shu Chan put all these things in her bag, and then came to the other stone door in the stone room. She tried to activate the power of the Azura divine runes, and successfully opened it. Opening this door requires all the power of the Azura divine runes. If there is another door, I'm afraid I won't be able to open it. The Dark Shadow King is probably testing me on purpose so that I can improve my strength in order to obtain the deeper things. Shu Chan said with a slight frown. Let's go in and have a look. If you can't do it, I'll try again. Long Yu said. Shu Chan had reached the 5th level of synchronization with the Dark Shadow Divine Runes. Even so, the level of her Azura Divine Runes was definitely not as high as the power of the Azura Divine Runes contained in the Azura Source Stone. If Shu Chan couldn't do it, Long Yu could still try with the Azura Source Stone. Thinking about how Long Yu could control the Azura Sacred Tree, Shu Chan knew that Long Yu had some special method that was related to the Azura Divine Runes. She didn't ask too much and only nodded with a smile. Then, she followed Long Yu and Man Xin into the second room. In this room, there were still pills and combat weapons, but there were very few of them. There were only 2 combat weapons and more than 20 pill bottles. All of them were Great Desolate Grade. Great Desolate Grade weapons. With the Dark Shadow King's methods, he actually left behind such good things for you. He has done his best for the Azura King. Long Yu was quite surprised. Although he didn't care for Great Desolate Grade weapons, they were still very precious to most people in Shura County. In the past, there were only a dozen or so Great Desolate Grade weapons in the entire Shura County. And in this demonic trace treasury, the Dark Shadow King had prepared 2 Great Desolate Grade weapons for Shu Chan. This Dark Shadow King is really generous. What's his relationship with the Azura King? Man Xin was a little surprised and asked casually. He's my father's sworn brother. Shu Chan also answered casually. Only then did Long Yu and Man Xion's doubts. So, she was the daughter of sworn brother. No wonder he had left so many things for Shu Chan. I will definitely avenge them. Killing intent flashed in Shu Chan's eyes. Her hatred for Emperor Tianqin didn't need to be mentioned. Although she had killed so many people who had betrayed Shura County, she naturally wouldn't be satisfied. She would never forget the person she hated the most, Emperor Tianqin. In order to allow Shu Chan and the others to escape from the Tianqin dynasty, the Azura King and the Dark Shadow King had tried to stop the Tianqin Emperor. In the end, they had all been sacrificed. Even Long Yu would never forget the kindness they had shown him. If it weren't for them buying time, Long Yu might have already fallen into Emperor Tianqin's hands. If you want to take revenge, you must have the strength. If you want to improve your strength, you must spend more time cultivating and fight more fiercely. Long Yu said solemnly, when we return to the North Snow Dynasty, we will continue to find a place to train. We must not stop moving forward. Shu Chan nodded and glanced at the second treasury room. Soon, she discovered that apart from the 2 Great Desolate Grade weapons and over 20 bottles of Great Desolate Grade pills, there were also some precious martial skill manuals. Most of these martial skill manuals were acquired techniques. There were even 4 incomplete Great Desolate Grade martial skills. For example, the demonic roar killing method that Long Yu had learned from Hui Yuan Bai was an incomplete Desolate Shadow. I have a way to make up for these 4 incomplete Great Desolate Grade martial skills and let the people of the Heavenly Mandate Manor and the Azura Mansion cultivate them. Long Yu's eyes lit up and he said directly, no matter what, Long Yu had to maintain his leading position. If he hadn't learned the ancient grade martial skill, Light of 9 Serenities, he wouldn't have been generous enough to make up for these Great Desolate Grade martial skills and give them to others. But now that he had learned the ancient grade martial skills, it didn't matter if he gave them to others. It wasn't because Long Yu was stingy and wanted to act cool. It was because he didn't want to be defenseless when he was betrayed by his own people. He had to hold back. This had always been Long Yu's way of doing things. Make up for the Great Desolate Grade martial skills. Hearing this, Shu Chan's eyes widened. No way. You can make up for the Great Desolate Grade martial skills. By the way, the martial skill you use to create shadows is similar to the demonic slaughter spell. Did you make up for the demonic slaughter spell? Yes, you guessed it. Long Yu nodded and chuckled. It's not difficult to make up for the Great Desolate Grade martial skills. As long as I study the theory of the operation of power, I can follow the clues and gradually make up for the whole skill. Long Yu hid the existence of the consciousness of the Dragon of Nine Serenities and explained it in a mysterious way, which made Shu Chan and Man Xen open their eyes wide in shock. "You're really a freak. No wonder you have such a high talent in cultivation." Shu Chan clicked her tongue. It was the first time she heard of such a person in this world who could make up for the great desolate grade martial skills through the theory of the operation of power. "But don't tell anyone that I made up for the great desolate grade martial skills when you go back." Long Yu added, "Don't worry." A hint of anticipation appeared on Shu Chan's face. Even she had not practiced a great desolate grade martial skill before. One must know that the power of a great desolate grade martial skill surpassed innate mystic abilities. If one could learn a great desolate grade martial skill, one would have a great advantage in a battle between martial cultivators of the same level. Chapter 630. Combat Weapon, Pellets, and Martial Techniques. These were the three main ways for a martial cultivator to increase their strength. But other than these three, a martial cultivator's strength was also affected by other factors, such as the level of compatibility with the divine runes. In the second room, there were only combat weapons, pellets, and martial techniques. As expected, Shu Chan couldn't open the stone door leading to the next room. Long Yu secretly activated the Azura Source Stone and easily opened the door, causing Shu Chan to click her tongue in wonder. "Long Yu, looks like your attainments in the Azura Divine Rune are even deeper than mine." "Amazing, amazing," Shu Chan said with a smile. "It's just a fortuitous encounter in the Azura Abyss." Long Yu casually smiled and took the lead to walk into the third treasury room. There were even fewer things in this room. Only a few items were placed on the shelves, but with a single glance, one could tell that they were truly good stuff. 3 of the pellet bottles were filled with translucent spherical crystals about the size of a thumb. They were actually the essence of a god's descendant that could increase a martial cultivator's compatibility with the divine rune. Long Yu and Shu Chan had already used this once. If they wanted to use it again, they would have to wait until they stepped into the Imperial Path Mystic Realm. Even if they absorbed it now, it wouldn't have any effect. "Manzi, take one and absorb it first. We'll talk about the other 2 in the future." Long Yu threw one of the god's descendant essences to Man Xin. Man Xin caught it without hesitation. After some explanation, he learned that it could increase his compatibility with the divine rune. It was an extremely rare treasure. The current Man Xin was only at the first level of compatibility with the Shadow Divine Rune, which was still considered weak. If he could improve it further, he would be able to display even more power than the Stormy Demonic Saber. With the inheritance of the Stormy Demonic Saber, if Man Xin fully matured, he would definitely not be weaker than Shu Chan. "I'm afraid we'll face more dangers after we leave this place. I'll directly absorb it to increase my strength. Brother Long, Princess, you two continue forward." After Man Xin obtained the Divine Child Essence, he decided to absorb it completely. Long Yu didn't have any objections to this, so he nodded and said, Only the Azura Divine Runes can open the stone door in this place, so the possibility of outsiders entering is very low. You can stay here and absorb the Divine Spawn Essence." In addition to the Divine Spawn Essence, there were other special treasures in the third room. Among them were 2 divine runes. A divine rune engraving can be used by a martial cultivator to comprehend the second level of divine rune power, but for the martial cultivators of Shenwu World, they don't know about the 3 levels of divine rune power: comprehension through copying, comprehension through engraving, and comprehension through divine runic sources. The difference in the power of divine runes that one comprehended from these 3 paths was enormous. They were separated into 3 different realms. But to the martial cultivators of Shenwu World, comprehending divine runic sources was the same as nothing. This was because Shenwu World didn't have any divine runic sources. The divine rune source is the place where the most fundamental power of the universe gathers, and Shenwu World is only a miniature world of a 9 underworlds dragon, so of course it wouldn't have a divine rune source. Therefore, in Shenwu World, divine rune engraving was the path that allowed martial cultivators to comprehend the strongest divine rune. Right now, Long Yu had 108 divine runes of death and more than 70 Azura divine runes. But to give everyone in Heavenly Mandate Manor and Azura Mansion a divine rune, it was still a long way off. Especially when General Huiyuan Bai would bring 100 or so martial cultivators of the Nightmare Legion to the North Snow Empire. When things settle down, I'll release all the disciples of the Jintian clan from the Dragon Bone Tower. There are several hundred of them. I'll need to train them well. Long Yu thought to himself. For the time being, he didn't release all the disciples of the Jintian clan because he was afraid that Heavenly Mandate Manor would be too chaotic. After all, this was a new territory, and he didn't want Hong Yue to be too tired from managing it. The next time Long Yu returned, he would release all the disciples of the Jintian clan. The entire population of Heavenly Mandate Manor would definitely exceed 1,000 people. Without enough cultivation resources, these disciples of the Jintian clan would never have a future in the North Snow Empire. They would even be discriminated against wherever they went. Long Yu, who had brought everyone out of Heavenly Mandate Island, certainly didn't want to see such a situation happen. The King of Shadows had prepared 2 divine runes for Shuchan. One was the divine rune of flame, and the other was the divine rune of life. Needless to say, they were precious. Long Yu, you have a level 4 affinity with the divine rune of life. How about I give this divine rune of life to you? Shuchan suggested. There's no need. Long Yu shook his head. Even if you give this divine rune of life to me, I won't have time to comprehend it. This was the truth. Right now, Long Yu had 2 divine rune source stones. One was the Azura Source Stone, and the other was the Death Source Stone in the Envoy of Death's hand. If Long Yu wanted to comprehend the divine rune of death, the Envoy of Death would take it out and give it to Long Yu. Right now, Long Yu had only comprehended 1,000th of the divine rune of death. There was still a long way to go. For now, he certainly wouldn't have time to comprehend the other divine runes of life. Long Yu had the self-healing divine rune and the siphon divine rune, which were enough for now. He only needed to cultivate the dominating body of Hades well, and his life would not be threatened under normal circumstances. If he encountered an opponent who was too strong, then it would be useless no matter how many divine runes of life he comprehended. The 2 of them put away the divine runes and the divine rune essence. There was only one thing left in the 3rd treasure room. It was a black charcoal-like object. It had the power of some kind of divine rune of shadow on it, but no one knew what it was. Next to the object, there was a small note, which seemed to be explaining its origin. This object has been around for a long time. I found it when I was traveling when I was young. With it, I comprehended the divine rune of demonic trace and created the demonic trace of shadow, which became the #1 sect in Shura Prefecture. Perhaps through this item, Your Highness and the others will be able to find its source and obtain even greater power. This string of small words indicated the origin of the black, charcoal-like object. It turned out to be the founding object of the demonic trace of shadow. He actually left this thing for me. In my opinion, we should give this to the genius of Mo Jietian. Shuchan's eyes lit up, but then she thought of Mo Jietian. Mo Jietian was currently training in the North Snow Empire. If he could obtain this object, his strength would definitely increase by a level. Moreover, this object originally belonged to Mo Jietian, but the King of Shadow could only leave it in this treasure room and lock it with the divine rune of Azura, so that Shuchan could take it. I don't care. Long Yu nodded. No matter what kind of inheritance this black charcoal-like object represented, it was still inferior to the inheritance of the Dragon of 9 Underworlds, so there was no need for him to fight for it. The Envoy of Death did not say anything, which meant that this object was incomparable to the inheritance of the Dragon of 9 Underworlds, so there was no need for Long Yu to fight for it. There's still the last room. Shu-chan raised her head and looked at the last stone door of the Shadow treasure room. Her eyes flashed with doubt. The King of Shadow even left the object that he created, the demonic trace of shadow, in the third room. What else could be more precious in the fourth room? Let's go in and take a look. Long Yu activated the Azura Source Stone and gradually opened the fourth stone door. Soon, he saw that there was nothing special in the next room. There was only a stone platform in the center, and on the stone platform, there was something that seemed to be a piece of white bone. It's a piece of bone. Long Yu frowned slightly, and this bone doesn't seem to have any power. With doubt in her heart, Shu-chan stepped into the fourth treasure room. The two of them looked at the stone platform in the center and saw a piece of white bone that was 3 feet long. It didn't look like a human's bone, but rather a part of a giant ancient creature. It's the remains of an ancient dragon-esque elephant. Just as the two of them were feeling puzzled, the Death Envoy's awe-inspiring voice rang out in Long Yu's ears. It was a voice that only he could hear. Primordial dragon-esque elephants are a race that Lord Dragon Emperor Nine Nether had captured and placed in his own small world to breed. It seems that even this primordial dragon-esque elephant race was unable to escape the calamity back then. Otherwise, with the power and lifespan of the primordial dragon-esque elephant race, they wouldn't be so unknown in this world. Then what's the use of this ancient dragon-esque elephant's white bone? A thought flashed in Long Yu's mind, and he asked. It could be used to refine combat weapons. If the ancient dragon-esque elephant's bone is used as the main material for weapon refinement, the weapon refined will at least be an ancient-grade combat weapon. The Envoy of Death's cold voice continued to reach Long Yu's ears. It can also be used to refine pills. If this 3 feet long ancient dragon-esque elephant's bone is given to an outstanding alchemist, it can be used to refine at least 10 dragon-esque elephant pills. This is an ancient-grade pill. Consuming it can permanently strengthen a martial cultivator's body. It's actually an ancient-grade material for weapon refinement and pill refinement. Long Yu's eyes immediately lit up. This was a real treasure that was hard to come by. The Envoy of Death didn't say anything when the charcoal-like Devil Trace creation artifact appeared, but this ancient dragon-esque elephant's bone actually attracted the Envoy of Death's attention. It was obvious that this was a real treasure. Compared to combat weapons, Long Yu wanted to use this ancient dragon-esque elephant's bone to refine 10 dragon-esque elephant pills. This is an ancient-grade pill. Consuming it can permanently strengthen a martial cultivator's body, equivalent to a powerful body-tempering martial skill. In Shunwu world, most martial cultivators don't train in body-tempering martial skills. That's because body-tempering martial skills have low attack power. They can only passively defend. Not only are they extremely hard to train, they also don't have much use. But the dragon-esque elephant pill is different. As long as one consumes it, it can automatically change a martial cultivator's body. They don't even need to do anything to strengthen their body. In the entire Shunwu world, such a pill has never appeared before. To refine an ancient pill, you'll need to at least reach the Emperor Realm. In this Shunwu world, there aren't many alchemists at the Emperor Realm. The Envoy of Death coldly mocked Long Yu. It's fine. I'll be able to step into the Emperor Realm sooner or later. It won't be too late to refine pills then that you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.